Hello and welcome to the Big 12 Mafia Show. I'm your host, Nathan Bomber Brown, and with me is the godfather of all sports media contacts. He's my godfather. I'm not sure anybody else's, but I've got Jim Williams here with us today. It's a busy day today, Jim.
It is. It is. Nice to be with you, as always, Bomber. And we'll have to work on the Godfather bit. But
Okay. If you don't like that nickname, I'm happy to use something else.
It's funny because you watch all the films and you become you're not quite sure that being Don Corleone is a good thing.
Right. Fair enough. Okay.
But anyway, no, it's great, and it's we're all getting ready for a nice, hopefully safe and enjoyable holiday weekend.
Absolutely.
And so we're wrapping up the week that was, which it was a good week for certainly BYU and BYU supporters all around the globe, because within a few hours you will officially become members of the Big 12 Conference, and I know that people at UCF and Cincinnati and Houston are all excited, and so it's going to be a fun and good weekend. And in fairness, let's be honest, certainly BYU and your fans have long wanted to join a conference. I know that there's been messaging out there before that, oh no, they don't want to, and it's no, it's it would be good, and they would be a good add to any conference, and so now their dreams come true, and I know how hard it's been. Boomer, I'm going back to ESPN, to get these things done, and I'm just happy for you guys, because I know that that's, you can check that box now and get ready to go and play Big 12 games, and regardless of what happens, with the other league, if nothing happens with the other league, it's still a good day, and it's still that the conference is stronger and is in a good shape. You can't ask for anything more than that. So congratulations to you and the Cougar Nation, because I know this has been a long time coming, but it's a well-deserved invitation and now a membership.
Well, Jim, thank you so much. You could not have been more understated in that. I will actually go over the top and say I've been waiting for this for almost 50 years, literally 50 years. I was at my first BYU football game in 1974. No, check that, 1973. Gary Seide was or Virgil Carter was the quarterback. I can't remember. And I actually played catch with him. My dad was friends with the football team. Anyway, so yeah, we've been waiting a while, and to have that final stamp, even though everybody's known BYU as a top tier program, to have that stamp, it removes all doubt and it adds to the credibility, right? So. So it's a big day. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I know you're on a hard and fast deadline. I'd love to keep you for 4 hours, but you have other appointments.
My
so
wife
Okay, I'm going to try to talk as fast as I can and get through as many subjects as I can. But first of all, the one that is right off the top of the bat that is just basically brand new is the ESPN layoffs. I cannot believe the list of people that have been let go. I'll just quickly, in fact, I'll just read them. Go ahead. What are we going to say?
No, I was just going to say, go for it.
Yeah, so Jeff Van Gundy, Jalen Rose, Max Kellerman, Susie Colbert, Steve Young, and the list just gets longer and longer. We realize that realignment, Pac-12, Big 12, all that stuff's important, but my gosh, what kind of an earthquake is this going to be in media dollars and coverage for sports?
Well, it's the human side now. Okay, we don't see the tech people who work. I can't tell you, as a director and a producer, how often that we've got a team of 25 to 75 to 100 sometimes of people working, and those folks never get in front of the camera, never get the credit that they deserve, and they get axed. And then all of a sudden, that's not enough, because ESPN has to make some even deeper cuts. And so talent that we've all seen for many, many years and have become accustomed to, and are good people and they have families, and you just sit there and go, man, it's one thing for Jeff Van Gundy to get it right, because
Right.
he's got he's got wealth from his years as a coach. It's another thing for a Max Kellerman or for some of these other folks who, you know, where else do you go? I mean, that's when you um, this is it's, in some ways the ESPN layoffs is kind of like a cautionary tale. Okay, when ESPN was riding high and making a lot of money, they were getting between $6 and $7 a sub and a month from 100,000 subscribers, or I'm sorry, what was it, a 100 million subscribers. So you know that situation, you get bloated, you spend a lot of money on things, you build state, you build more studios, you add shows, you do all that, what's called shoulder programming, just to get in front, and you overdo it, and what they did is they overdid it, and then somebody's got to pay the check. Here's
Right.
my guy, you know Gundy in the middle, and you got Mike Breen, who Mike and I shared agents for many years.
Oh,
uh,
did you really?
yeah, he and I were with NS Beanstalk before they became Endeavor, by the way.
Oh, okay.
They were, best of my knowledge, we're still with them. They haven't canceled anything. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, you're losing some guys, who and women who are going to have to go out and find something to do, and unfortunately, there's not as many things to do as there once was. And the cautionary tale is that when you live above your means,
Right.
it's going to come back to haunt you. And so we'll see. I mean, they're going to have to be more creative to to get this done. And we're at an inflection point where you and I've spoken about this before. You're going to have to be more careful in what you invest your money in,
Right.
and because we don't know at the end of the day. We've all said it for many years. Please give me my. I just want to see my team play. I don't need all the other channels to do it. Well, now in streaming, you're going to get that opportunity, but we don't know what a direct to consumer model looks like yet, because frankly, um, even in the test situations, we really still don't know. So we will in the next 3, 4, 5 years, but today we don't, and so we'll see. But I always feel badly when anybody loses their jobs, and certainly some of these folks. We all seen them on TV, and
Right.
many of them I know, and I feel badly because I know that this was their life. This is what they truly enjoyed doing, and now they're not going to be doing it, and it's going to have to be. And ESPN Radio is about to get gashed, even worse, and so
Wow.
there's only going to be a certain amount of folks that they're going to survive this, and that's a very sad, to me, situation, because again, we all enjoy their work, and do whatever we can, and unfortunately, it's just not the way it works. So, and,
Right.
we hope that they'll catch on somewhere, but it's a tough sports economy right now.
I'm I didn't plan on starting this show with this.
Mhm.
My first notification of it was I got one of my followers sent me a DM with the Steve Young news, and
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I don't know who has the balls to sell or to lay off Steve Young, because he's the nicest human being you would ever meet. I've met him a couple times.
Yeah.
I obviously, growing up watching him play, I worshipped his play on and off the field, and what he represents, right? That character is very important. And so I think that probably is going to be the biggest hit to ESPN, isn't it? The fact that they're getting rid of so many good, talented people. Yeah, there's not enough money to feed all of them, but it's more the human element, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's always the human element.
Right.
And I would bet you, okay, I don't know this for a fact. I'm not gonna, I'm not saying something I know. This is just me talking from being around people like Steve Young, who, as you say, is just a gentleman on the highest level
Right.
and just a very nice man. Forget the fact, and very humble, given all that he has
He
accomplished.
is, yes.
And I bet you if you ask Steve, right? I bet you Steve would have gone into whomever he was dealing with and say, you know, here's what I want you, if you can take this money that you're cutting me for, okay, and keep 5 or 6 or 7 tech people, then fine, I'm good with that. And I've seen that happen. I've seen people who are at the top of the list, but they've made it. They financially they're okay.
Right.
And they have said, look, I get it. We're not going to get this money. It is what it is. But if you can save some of these guys and you need that money to do it, take the money. And the late George Michael, who had the George Michael Sports Machine on NBC.
Oh my gosh, I loved watching those shows. After you'd come home on a Friday night with high school basketball or football, you'd turn on George Michael Sports Machine at 11:30. I will never forget those shows. They were the best.
George stepped down from his position at NBC in Washington, WRC, NBC4, which was owned by NBC.
Right.
And he did it because they wanted him to fire two sportscasters he had brought on, as his, he was teaching them and coaching them up. And he basically said, look, you're not gonna get rid of those kids. You're gonna get rid, I'm gonna step aside. And he did. They said to him, well, pick a successor. And he goes, I refuse to do that. One was Dan Haley, who's now at the NFL Network, and the other is Lindsay Zarniak, who Lindsay was with ESPN for many years. Then she moved over. I think she's at Fox now. I've seen her pop up on sideline reports and things like that. So yeah, I mean, George was like, these are just make them sports directors. I don't care.
Right.
But it is what it was, and it was fun. I mean, I'm glad that George was able to do it and to hold true to his his team. I mean, because that's you take one for the team. So if you're
loyalty
lucky,
is hard to find. Loyalty is very hard to find.
But I'm sure that Steve did it. I know that Van Gundy loved his work, but again, a guy like him will either end up coaching, or if he doesn't end up coaching, he'll be doing some local TV or even some national stuff. But everybody, the industry has changed so drastically now that it's a shame. But it is what it is, and we just have to do with what we can.
So I want to we dove right in. I forgot to welcome our first viewers today. By the way, everybody who's joined, thank you for coming to this show today. Please subscribe, give us a like, and all that fun stuff. I'm not going to waste time on a bunch of that. But Wild Ute was first one in. EJ Brown was in with our very first YouTube member. No, I'm not the Monty Show. I don't have canned clapping, but hopefully he's going to be one. I'm assuming he is going to be one of the many that come afterwards, and I very much appreciate and honor your subscription, and I hope that I'm able to continue to give you what you want to hear, and be entertaining as possible. But Cougar Tail was also in, and also who was my last one? K-Do was the last one that was in right before we started. So when it comes to what next, but everybody's going to be saying what's next, right? You'll probably have that question 100 times in the next 2 days or something. Mm-hmm. Where does ESPN go from here, and what does the level of their coverage, does it go down? Does the quality of their product go down because they're losing so many people?
The answer is it's going to look different. I don't know that it's going to be that I don't know that you're going to notice any significant loss of production quality.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people don't realize that a number of ESPN's programs that, live programs, meaning live sports even, are done from a studio in Charlotte.
Okay.
And Fox and ESPN both have studios in Charlotte. And what they do with the SEC and the SEC network and the ACC network is they produce a number of events. Everything from basketball games um, to college baseball and all that. They they have cameras that are set up in a remote situation at the stadiums or
Right.
at the arenas. And what they do is they now have a producer and a director and a graphics person, and it's all fiber optics that come back to Charlotte. The um, the only people they send to Charlotte are the announcers and
Okay.
maybe an A1, which is an audio person. And so what's happening is you'll have a director and a producer do a noon show. Maybe it's a basketball game. We'll call it, use that as the analogy. The basketball game at noon, they'll take a couple hours off, and then they'll go at 6 o'clock and do, maybe it's a women's volleyball match or something like that.
Okay.
So they can do a number of different events from, that one um, control center where they may have anywhere from 4 or 5 studios. It's basically the same thing that the Pac-12 network has, which is it's a remote situation. Big Ten
Right.
has, where they can remotely do, because if you're going to do, I mean, to do 800 events, which is pretty much an average for what a Power Five conference does, you're going to have the amount of remote facilities to do that would be difficult. I mean, having done, we could never do that much in back in the older days. The way that they have now with fiber optics and with the ability to do these things with this whole fly situation, where you're basically doing it out of a big blue box that holds all of the connectors that go to each audio channel and each video source from the
Right.
cameras, and you're only talking about a millisecond or two of leniency between latency. Thank you very much, my associate producer and my wife said latency. So I appreciate that. Thank you, Susan. So she's in the commissary making dinner. So um, so you can see the game. You don't notice it because you and I could be watching the same game, and
Right.
I'll see a play before you will, simply because of the speed of uh,
Right.
my either cable system or streaming service.
Or over the air, right?
Right.
There's always a delay between over
Yes.
the air and
Yeah.
what's online.
Right. And so all of that, I think, is there, and those facilities allow you to do. And I mean, that would have been such a joy to be able to do 1 or 2 events in a day,
Right.
and not have to leave home. Basically, you just
Right.
drive in, do your shift work, and you're gone. And that middle show is done by yet another. So you might have 4 or 5 of those control rooms all going at the same time, and producing. So the production aspect of it I don't think is going to
Suffer.
be hindered much, because they're already cutting as much as they can on that side. They always start with cutting the production
Talent.
side.
Right.
How many cameras basically.
Oh, really? They cut the back end guys first. Okay.
Yeah, that's where it goes first, because when you don't want to cut talent, because
Right.
those are the guys in front of the camera.
Right.
So if you see the men and women in front of the camera, everything's all right.
But they're always they have there's such a disparity in salaries, though. It would
Yeah,
take 100 smaller guys to
right.
make up the salary of 5 top tier talent guys, though, right?
Well, they just signed Buck and Aikman to
Uh-huh.
$17
Yeah.
million contracts.
Right.
Then they lay off, you know, a ton of people.
So it's just like every other business, because every
Yeah,
other business, middle management somehow gets
it's
through,
squished.
and the other people that are actually getting the work done, that are helping the company stay
Right.
vital, they're the ones they cut.
Now,
Okay.
now
Okay.
the thing to know is that you've got crews, let's just say, doing a BYU game, right?
Right.
You got that crew doing the BYU game. That same crew tomorrow may be doing a Utah Jazz game.
Right.
After that might be doing, a Salt Lake City soccer game.
Okay.
So you've got your crews, and they work for different networks. They'll work for all of them. You want the best camera people, you want the best audio people, you want the best graphics people. Usually the graphics are done at the studio. So that's that would be a position where you would fly them to the site if you're doing it in a truck. But if you're not doing it in a truck, you're doing it in the control rooms like they have in Charlotte, then you just basically, that's all done. Just building the graphics and such takes time, and they'd be doing that all week to build the graphics for that. But like I said, with the BYU situation, and you guys have phenomenal facilities out there. You always have.
Independence basically forced us to build a net ESPN, and it's not in Bristol, it's in Provo.
Right. So, it was a well done facility, so you can do everything on campus without too much trouble, and you've got talented people all around there to do it.
Yeah.
That makes it simple. But you're going to get the tech guys, you're going to get the producers and directors. You're going to be seeing a lot more freelance producers and directors, rather than the guys who are on salary, because they'll probably be gone too. And that's all they're really doing in many ways, is just going back to where, what happened when I started. Okay. And we would be doing games for Raycom or for, any number of different groups, where we would syndicate the game to regular over-the-air television, and then ESPN would buy a feed from us. And so what we would do is their graphics would be, we would shoot a clean video for them so they could put their graphics in. Or in some cases in basketball, we would just literally put up a freeze frame. When we go to commercial or something, they would put up their own scoreboard, and that way we would still continue to do what we're doing. So there'll be a lot more of that kind of, I don't want to say it's bare bones production, but it's not, and it's quality production. It's not, but the advent of two things: one, fiber optics, and two, digital video, has made it a lot cheaper to do. And I know that, I forget who it was, and I'm not even going to mention it, but somebody said that it costs about $200,000 a game to produce a football game.
I saw that tweet you put out. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I saw that. Yeah.
That would be the people that would, the ones that would come close to that are your Monday night football games, back in the ABC Monday night football games day. Your Sunday night football with NBC, and the Thursday night game on Amazon, and then of course the ABC Sunday night college game, which ESPN produces.
Right.
And the rationale behind why that would be closer to the 200 figure is because you count in that, your producers, directors, and graphics, and all of and they also have the cameras that fly around, and they have the boom cameras, and they have all bells and whistles, which a normal game wouldn't have.
Of course.
So the ability to produce these things on a budget is where I think ESPN's kind of going to go back to the roots, and that was I remember in the early days of ESPN, they used to get mad at us if we lost a banner. It's like, you put the banner up in the gym that says ESPN. If we didn't, if we couldn't carry that to the next event, they'd get mad at us and say, these banners don't grow on trees. So yeah, it was. I think going back to limited productions of how they do it, maybe 6 cameras or 4 cameras or whatever. And if you get a good talented, group of people, you can make 6 cameras look like 12. So it's just I think they're going to go back to a more, frankly, a more responsible way of doing it, and they're going to pick and choose what they invest their money in with regard to the properties that they want.
So to wrap up this topic, which I appreciate you being here. I mean, this is like a coup. We set this up a week and a half ago for Jim to be here today. And obviously, we had no idea where we were going to be at June
No,
30th. And we certainly didn't know about ESPN. So,
no,
you being here and providing this information on my show, I got to tell you, I'm very humbled.
it's
Um,
my pleasure. Yes.
so, the last question on this topic is, where does the talent go now? Is there a potential? There's so much talent out there. Is there a possibility that somebody scoops up that talent and tries to start something?
I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
there's you, if you look at what's out there, right? Paramount Plus, which is CBS, um, Peacock, which is NBC,
Yep.
the Discovery people, which is Warner Discovery, which is now, we used to know them as Turner,
Right.
but it's Warner Discovery now. The regionals are bagging out.
Yeah, they're
That's a
gone.
problem. So the problem is that there's only a few chairs, at the table at the moment,
Right.
and we'll see how that plays out. I don't know. I mean, I look what Dan Levitard did when Danny decided to leave ESPN, or they decided he would leave ESPN, but it depends on who you talk to. Um,
Right.
I think that what you're doing and what Dan is doing with his show, and Rich Eisen is doing with his show, and Dan Patrick's doing with his show. I think those kind of formats, which are kind of a hybrid audio video situation where you can be listening to it and
Right.
watching it, are probably likely. And I think that the talent that got cut loose will be, if they're good at what they do, and they are, but if they're good business people, they will find an outlet, even if it's an outlet like Dan did, to create something. I mean, I remember when Dan Patrick left ESPN Radio, and then the company he was going to crashed 48 hours later.
Right.
And he went from 350 affiliates to one station in Los Angeles. And then he built that back up. So, each one of these people will have to do what we all do, and that's reinvent yourself, and and become. You can't. I don't think you can stand around and wait for somebody to create a network for you to work with.
Right. Of
That's not
course.
working these days.
Yeah.
But with the streamers, and with the ability to do what you're doing, and we're doing here today on YouTube, and the other options for you, then if you're creative, and they are creative, and if you've got some business savvy to you, or you've got a friend who's business savvy, I think that they're going to, just like the teams do, I think they're going to create their own personal brand
Okay.
and work on it from that standpoint. That's what I would do if I were them. And I think that, as I said, Levitard is one who's proven it, that you can do it. Dan Patrick, Rich Eisen, those are guys who, were at the top of the game to begin with, so that helps a lot. But, Max Kellerman, for instance.
Right.
Max still does boxing, and so he'll be doing some.
That's HBO, right?
He does it for a couple different people. HBO,
Okay.
Zone, so yeah, he's got that
Okay.
going for him. But I mean, again, all of these people are talented folks, and they'll try to find something to do, which as I said, if it's YouTube's slash audio version of what they do, then they'll do it, and they'll survive. I know, unfortunately, sometimes these cuts come. A friend of mine out in San Francisco, when NBC Sports decided they were going to do some cutting out in the Bay Area, Kelly Johnson, who's a fantastic broadcaster. Kelly went ahead and became a real estate person, and because of her national exposure, and certainly exposure in the Bay Area, she became very successful at it.
Sure.
And so, I mean, it's, again, you know, we all look at these things and say, what's going to happen next? And really, it's going to be something different for each one of these folks. And I just hope that, that they all land on their feet, because, they're all good folks, and they're talented folks. But,
Well,
the bottom line is the bottom line.
Sorry. No, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
was just saying, and the it's a business at the end of the day, and
Right.
unfortunately, they got caught up in in things that unfortunately they had no power.
Yeah,
So
they couldn't control anything
they
for
couldn't
sure.
control it. So
Yeah.
if somebody's out spending, what you can't afford, that's going to come back to haunt you. If you look at what ESPN has on the books for the amount of just rights fees to all of the people that they've been involved with, that's a lot of money.
Sure.
And they overpaid for it, which that's a John Skipper thing.
Well, but I was just thinking, that's what I was going to say a second ago, is if there was ever a time to start your own sports thing, or to bring in good talent and buy used equipment, basically get in on the ground floor with some amazing resources, now would be the time, because you got a bunch of people looking for work.
Well, there are, but there's also a factor of how much can you pay these people to do,
right? Of course.
Which again gets you back into the business.
Right.
That's why I think more of them will go and try to create their own brand. And it did a while back. Jaws, Ron Jaworski, he was part of ESPN's football coverage. When it was all said and done, he set up his own setup and did well. So again, if you're creative and you don't mind being entrepreneurial, then there's options out there, and we hope that they do. So it's early in the game. We'll find out,
Right.
And they're not going to be the last to get.
Yeah, I have heard rumblings about that as well. It's like we're still a ways into that. The recession isn't going anywhere. Money in general is getting harder and harder to find. Tell the Pac-12 how that is right now. And so, yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be a challenge for a while.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's going to definitely be a challenge.
Yeah. I want to thank everybody who's watching. Please subscribe. If you want to actually subscribe and join the channel, all your comments will be read on the show. If you want to give us a super chat, I'll immediately read those as well. There's so many texts, I just can't take care of them myself. So if you want your comment, or you have a question for Jim and we have time, I'll certainly bring it in. Otherwise, if you really wanted to get it out, either subscribe or do a super chat. So let's put that aside. That's going to be, that story is going to go on for a while.
Don't forget to hit the like button and the
yeah,
the share button.
Yeah, see what Jim says. All right, so we're near the end here. Pac-12, SDSU. Well, we'll see, right? Who knows? Because except for San Diego State, nobody else is really in a rush. No. Except for, tell me this, I think the date that is just hanging over George Kliavkoff's neck is July 21st. Can you imagine going into media days, Pac-12 media days, and you have this amazing season you're lining up with all these quarterbacks, great teams? Pac-12 could be just this amazing conference and not have this resolved?
No, I think they have to have it resolved by that time.
Right.
And in fairness, I think that they have. I think they know what they want, and I think that they're simply at this point in time probably just honing in on what what the deal could look like, and so I think you're right. I think that that'll happen. I don't foresee this. Is this going to be a problem for San Diego State? I don't think so. I think that that'll be negotiated out, just like when Oklahoma was left, just like USC and UCLA. And in the case of it may end up costing them more to get out, but I don't think that that's going to be an issue for Arizona. I'm sorry, I said Arizona State
So
for San Diego State.
I want to give you an opportunity. There was some stuff done on another show yesterday, and we don't have to talk about the name. We don't have to talk about what was said, but I want you. I felt, boy, my heart ached when I heard some of this stuff was not just said about you, but some other people that are genuinely my friends and I care about. What do you do when you deal with those negative vibes from people and you just get all courtesies thrown out in the window and you're personally attacked?
What you do is you handle it with class.
Right, which you have.
Which you sit there and say,
Yeah.
look, I begrudge this person enough. I mean, look, if you put something on Twitter, or if you publish something, in a newspaper, if you do a television show, if we're doing what we're doing right here, right now, we automatically allow ourselves to be,
That's true.
critiqued in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
And it hasn't been the first time that I'm happy to be in a group of other people who were critiqued just as badly.
That doesn't make it right, Jim.
No, it doesn't make it right.
Yeah, it doesn't make it right.
I'm just saying that the best thing to do is to take the high ground and say,
Right.
I'm not going to get into a Twitter battle. This is silly. A billion Chinese will wake up tomorrow and never know this happened.
Exactly.
So put it in perspective, let it go, and just simply say, look, okay, I'm fine. We're good. I have there's no beef between me and whomever.
Right.
They have their right to do, whatever's. The only time I ever take it personally is if something is put out there, and if I can't remember that it's been any time recently, something put out there that I didn't say,
right,
or I didn't write, or I didn't in some way was involved with and being criticized for. That's the only time that I will take, and it's not an offensive stand, but it's a stand to say, look, I don't know where you got this from. Please show me where I said this, because I have no idea what you're talking about.
Right.
And I think that, you and I and all of us that are in this business know that, there's going to be people who are going to put things out there. Fine. I mean, that's fine. As long as it's not personal,
right.
As long as it's not, mean-spirited, look, if you read something that I do and you have a critique of it and that critique doesn't meet with me, I can live with that. I mean,
right.
And it's not worth arguing over, because I know that you had a reason to do it, whatever that may be.
Right.
But I mean, I know what I know. So in other words, if I put it up there, I'm standing behind it. If you don't believe it, that's fine. If you don't like it, that's fine. That's why they print mentors. If you don't like it, okay, it is what it is. So yeah, it's not fun because you don't like, your first inclination is to be, well, wait a minute, let me explain this. But there's also the situations where you say, look, just, get up tomorrow and start again.
Right.
It's not worth it. It isn't. And I don't think that these people, honestly, are mean-spirited or mean, are out to get you or something like that. I don't think that's it at all. I just think that they have, they have a way of looking at it, which might not be the same way you and I look at it. So
yeah,
it is what it is. And so, okay, fine. You try to just suck it up and go, okay. If it continues and becomes a pattern, well, then maybe you have to. But that in cases like that, you have to talk to the person one-on-one, be it
right. You don't do it this public.
You don't do it. You don't create drama where there isn't drama.
Well, for one thing, all you're doing is feeding the beast, right? If anything, you're just helping it propagate because you're validating it. You're giving it heft, right?
You need oxygen, and you don't need to.
Yeah, no.
And it's a better. It's is that the hill I want to die on? No,
right.
It's not. It's not that. And again, it's you're fair game. So
well,
Okay.
I was going to say, if that fight ever has to come, Jim, you won't have to do anything yourself. You'll have 1,000
I'm
people
not.
that
I'm,
will fight for you.
well, I
So,
appreciate it, but
yeah.
I don't think we're in fight mode here.
No, let's not dwell on
Everything
it.
was pretty tame, so I'm
Right.
not.
I just wanted you to get the opportunity if you
Right,
wanted to
and I
say
appreciate
anything.
that. And,
Yeah.
from your standpoint, I know that you haven't, you had some things go wrong with you yesterday as well. So, but
Yeah.
again, it
I
was
understand.
not big on either side for you or I,
Right.
and we're still here today. So there you go.
So I need to apologize to all my BYU followers. Yesterday we did a live show, first one in my entire life. I've never done anything like this. It was for Coug Connect, which is the NIL, BYU NIL that I do work with, and it was an amazing event with these BYU players, families, and it was really a fun atmosphere. But it was quite chaotic, and I want everybody to know, one, it will get better. Two, I value the people that stuck with me through the entire show and participated. And then three, the people that reached out to me today and gave me uh, uh, notes of support, which really has helped me today, including the players I interviewed. So if the players I interviewed aren't mad at me, I don't see how anybody else can be. But we'll get better. We're going to streamline it. We're going to add some more resources, and that show will go better. What was your worst experience on a remote you've ever had?
Oh God.
I
Um,
know, I know. I didn't prepare you for this.
I I've got one, and
Okay,
that's we were starting the um, Sunshine Network in Florida.
okay,
And the first event was going to be a Florida State Miami baseball game. And about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes before air, there was a really bad thunderstorm that came through. And the lightning hit the satellite truck.
oh wow.
So we had nothing. And so we're doing a baseball game, and we're literally taking the video by 2 and 3 innings at a time, running it across town to a television station, uplinking it to the satellite, and I literally was back in the hotel in Tallahassee, watching the end of the game that I had done earlier in the day, and
Wow.
you're in the fetal position, going, okay, this is the first event we did for
Oh
the
my
network,
gosh.
and it was an utter disaster. Um,
Oh my heck.
but things happen. What are you gonna do? You can't.
Right. Well,
I never
then you
saw a satellite truck
yeah.
fry before, but thank God no one was hurt. And
Right, of course. Yeah, especially with lightning.
it's
So let's circle back. So I know you don't like doing predictions. I know that's not really your game, but the way that we're looking now, between now and say the July 20th, um, is there a higher likelihood that the Pac-12 stays together with no changes, including no new members, or is there a likelier opportunity that you might still see some movement with these teams?
is there an option C?
Sure, you
No,
can change the question. Go ahead.
I'm just not. Um, I will say this: the longer it takes for them to come to an agreement, as crazy as it sounds, it's more likely that would keep them together.
Yeah, I think so too. I agree
Because
with that. Yeah,
when if you're recruiting for 2024, 2025, which is
right.
everybody has already done, you really need to be able to show where you're going to be and what you're going to do, because people are going to decide one way or another. Okay?
Right.
So,
And they're being counter recruited, by the way.
yeah,
With that knowledge not being out there, the haziness, these other schools are saying, "Hey, you don't even know what conference you're going to be in next
right,
year."
right, and but when you're looking and talking to these kids, I mean, the biggest thing that they want is playing time.
Right.
They want to go
Exposure.
and they want to play.
Yeah.
Exposure's on the list. Don't get me wrong, but playing time and the ability to play at a level which may get them to an NFL next
Right.
is very important to them. I mean, if you look at it, the kid who's quarterbacking Washington this year, Michael Penix,
Right.
Who is, a freak as far as, athletically, he's phenomenal.
He was at Illinois, right?
He was in Illinois.
Yeah. All right.
He's from Tampa. Okay.
Okay.
I get Seattle and Tampa a long distance away,
Pretty
and
far.
usually Washington doesn't recruit down in that part of Florida.
Right.
So my point is this: because of the portal, and because of different coaches, players have different reasons to go wherever they may choose to go.
Okay.
And sometimes look at what is it? Slovis is at his third school.
He is.
He was
Yep.
SC, he was a Pitt, now
BYU. Yep.
BYU. So you've got Slovis, and it's not that the kid can't play,
Right.
but the systems change, and the system he was in at USC was not a system he was comfortable with.
Well, and he got caught up in the COVID years as well,
Sure.
right?
Right, yeah, and
that had nothing to do with him.
no, it had nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Then he went to Pitt and took over for Kenny Pickett and the offensive coordinator because they liked that guy, and and that's, I don't know that didn't work out for him. It just evidently didn't, because he got in the portal and went to BYU. So I mean, I think that he's got all the talent to be a quality quarterback. Let's just see if he can take you guys further now than you have been.
I learned so much from those players last night. If you haven't watched the show, if you can get through some of my technical problems, I would encourage you to go watch it. There were some really good interviews. Mason Wake, JoJo Phillips, let's see, Ciali. How do you say his last name? Anyway, Ciali. I'm going to get that wrong. I'll fix it after Jim's gone. These kids, Eddie Heckard, who's a transfer from Weber State and going to be in the NFL next year. All these guys came and they want to play on BYU, and they're so motivated. They're excited about the defense. They made me want to run out of there and go do some sled rushes. So BYU, and I've got a comment here from Greg Swaim. He says, welcome to the Big 12 family, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston. Great to have you on the conference and watching the best network on that's YouTube. Yeah, Greg and I are partners in the Your College Sport Connection group, and it's not one of these formal associations, but it's very informal and social media driven.
Greg has a very entertaining show. Greg's a good guy.
Entertaining is an understatement. So these players.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing about Greg. Hey, Greg, you got UCF on there, and you were asking me about production,
right?
Crazy things that happen. We were doing a baseball game at UCF one time, and our tech couldn't find the electric wires and the telephone wires. Okay. So he saw one on the pole, which he figured, okay, that's fine. We're doing a 3-hour baseball game. And we find out the next day that telephone box that was there was a telephone box that routed to a pizza place down on campus. And people were calling that phone and couldn't get in because they're wondering, they're ordering pizza and nobody no one can get in. Because why? Because we're doing a UCF baseball game and had no idea that we had tapped into the wrong phone.
That is hilarious.
Yeah, those are the kind of crazy things there.
Tebow49 says, Jim, any change in what you said? The Pac-12 TV media right package will be innovative. Yeah, that was kind of an interesting tweet you put out there. You were paraphrasing somebody else.
Right.
Go ahead.
Innovative in that they got to be creative to come up and get what they want to do. Innovative is one of those words that what I may think is innovative and you may think is innovative is pretty subjective. So I guess right now I think they want to put as much positive spin on it as they can. So,
right, of course.
Innovative? Okay, we'll find out.
Greg's got a question here for you, Jim. Do you think Notre Dame gets anywhere near the media revenue they're hoping for without joining the Big Ten? And if they do, who else would the Big Ten take? My guess is Stanford. Greg says Stanford. What are your thoughts on Notre Dame?
Stanford and honestly, I thought Stanford and USC would have been a better deal in the
Well, I
U.S.
agree with that 100%.
Um, Honestly, Greg, it's going to be tough. If they're looking for 60, $75 million, it's not all going to come from NBC. It can't,
Right.
because
Right.
NBC threw a ton of money at the Big 10. Now,
Right.
whether or not that gets them into the conference, I don't know. I mean, they're a whole different. That whole Notre Dame vibe out there is way different than what than what is normal. They don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's
Sure.
just that they have a mindset that they would prefer to be as independent as long as they can. So I don't know if they can get to the number that has been thrown out there. I don't know if it's 60 or 75. I don't know that they settle for less than that.
Right.
I don't know how much NBC at this point in time is going to put in that direction, because there's a bunch of contracts that come up. NBC wants to be back in the NBA. They've got their NASCAR contracts coming up too, Greg. So there's a ton of very important contracts that I'm sure they would like to renew. In the case of the NBA, their goal is, if nothing else, get something out
Right.
of that package. So there's only so many dollars you can spend. And am I going to spend? I mean, they just got an entire conference, and spent money there. I don't think they want to lose Notre Dame, but I don't think that there's anybody who's going to step up and give them that kind of money. If it's not Notre Dame, I'm sorry, if it's not NBC. So, long story short, I don't know. I mean, I think that they'll stay with NBC, but I don't think it will be at that kind of money.
Well, Jim, this has been fantastic. I'm going to ask the viewers to stick around, because I got a ton more realignment and some updated news on some of those things. So please stay with us. But Jim, I want to thank you so much for doing this today. I know you're on a short leash. Please thank your wife for loaning you
I will.
to us.
I will.
And we'll set up another time we can get together, and then look for. I got some stuff I need to tell you. So
Okay.
I can't remember. Do I have your cell phone number? I
Yeah.
think I do. All right, I'll send you a
I
text.
really don't think it'd be a good idea if I gave it to you over.
I wasn't asking for it. I just want to make sure I had it. All right, yeah, I'll send you a message, and we can talk about a couple things.
You got it. And I hope, as I said when we started this whole thing, that BYU has deserved this ability to be in a conference. I'm happy for them, and I know that the Big 12 will treat them right, and that you guys, the best years are yet to come for BYU. You got a great fan base. You got good people who are always run the show over there. You're on top of it. It's always good to see Greg in the building.
I'm trying to be on top of it.
Larry. There's Larry Pilgrim.
Oh, Larry's in the house. Nice.
Yeah, well, it's like Larry's over there. So you got bright people over there. You got bright people on that.
I have so many friends that I've made through this process, and I can honestly say these are guys that I'm going to stick with. They can't get rid of me if they want to, but the entire experience has been great, and I'm just telling everybody right now, if you're expecting the YouTube generation, the social media stuff to go away once realignment's done, I got to tell you, it isn't. There's so much other stuff that we're not talking about that we will be talking about. All right, Jim, anything else you want to say before you go?
No, just good luck, and I'm glad that you guys are in the conference. And to everybody out there, have a very safe and happy 4th of July weekend, and be safe, because we want you back here for football season.
Well, I appreciate that, Jim. Thanks again for coming, and I'll talk to you later.
Yes, sir. Take care.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
All right, Jim Williams, who has really turned into one of my mentors. Greg Flugard, John Kurtz, Jim has been vital. Greg Swaim, all these people. It's a wonderful sort of biosphere that we have in this group, and I really would encourage you, if you're not already following these guys, please do. All right, let's jump into. I want to get some calls. I know there's a lot of stuff going on, and I don't want to talk anymore. So here's the message. Somebody click on that link and join. Let's talk some realignment and some of the stuff that's come out in the last 48 hours. I want to follow up on a tweet I put out. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago, related to what could be a rumor for the media deal? I want to make it very clear. There was no one person I got that information from. I know there's been some talk that it's come from one person or another, but I didn't pop that on my own. There were a couple people that I've got information coming in, and these are people I very much value. And just like Greg said this morning, who Greg is amazing. When you're talking and you're trying to connect the dots, he's got this money perch, and somebody else might have a money guy in Cincinnati and another guy. You have to realize that this information is coming out and it's protected, and nobody's just going to start talking about it without having something to back it up. So I want to make sure that we keep that on point. And what I put out was definitely a rumor. Nothing's been printed. So when you're following me or Larry Pilgrim or Greg Flugar or Greg Swaim or John Kurtz. I mean, the list goes on and on. Just know that this information isn't coming from just one person; it's coming from many. So I put in the comments. I put the link. If you want your comment to be read, either do a super chat and it will highlight. I've now got over 100 messages, so I'll try to get back through them. I know you guys have a lot to say, but if you wanted to get to the front of the class and make sure I mention it, you'll have to put it in a super chat, or better off, subscribe. And that's one thing I wanted to announce to everybody today. I've added a third tier. It's $2.99. It's not going to have access to some of the back end information that I'm supplying to the people who are going to sign up as contributors or that are going to sign up as founders, but it's a separate channel that I've established on Twitter, and it's invite only. So if you'd like to be included in that and you start to see some information come across there that if people have mentioned it, I haven't seen very much of it, please subscribe. Otherwise, if you do the $2.99, all your messages will be highlighted, and of course I'll read them, just like the super chats. So nobody's accepted my offer to join the show, which I think is kind of interesting based on what was happening earlier today. Let me just get some comments in here. Let's see, I did Tebow's. Let me just drop in here with Patrick. I I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure what this means, Patrick Boren. Are you saying because of the weekend that the media partner being Fox is good for those schools? Can you clarify that? I'd love to explore that with you more. I'm just a little unclear as to what that means. Let's see here. And a scholar truly. I hope that's about Jim Williams. Let's see here. BR in the house saying hi. Greg again. Oh, and Patrick saying, hey, Cowboy, talking to BR. And Greg Swaim says, Jim has become the true star of the conference realignment saga. That is a fact. He is the guy that's been out in front since the day he broke that valuation for BYU from ESPN and what it could have brought to the Big 12 media deal. That's where that comes from. And he has been incredible. Clint Moses in the house. How's Oregon State? How you feeling, Clint? It's not the first ESPN layoff and won't be the last, obviously. They do this seemingly every 4 years or so. It's true, Clint, but not in the numbers that we're seeing now. There hasn't been a bloodletting like this in all of sports media, and I can't think of a time, and I'm 53 years old next month. So I'm not sure where that comes from, but I do know that this is not common. Robert Franz in the house. Swaim, is that the real Greg Swaim? It is the real Greg Swaim. I can attest that that is actually him. Aztec Country in the house, black and red. Aztec, give me a comment. Maybe you did earlier. I'll try to scroll down to it. How are you feeling today? I think you and Joel have really been out there saying that it doesn't matter what happens with the Mountain West Conference. Stay, go. It doesn't matter because San Diego State's going to find a place to live. I think that might end up being the AAC. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's quite possible. But I mean, when those things come, you're going to have to go someplace, and the AAC might be your fallback. We have a new member in the house, BR. Welcome. I'm gonna have to steal. I don't want to steal clapping from Monty. I'll come up with some other way. I recognize you, BR. You've been a listener from day one. Thank you for joining the show. And keep posting because I want to see those get highlighted and I'll bring them on the show immediately. So we have 2 members today and we've reached a high water mark. Let me scroll down to Clint Moses again. Yes, Swaim hops into most chats. That's true. And whether you like Greg or you don't like Greg, he knows people. And I can attest personally that he is absolutely a guy that is in the know. He's not talking to necessarily ADs, but he's hearing from people in these organizations. And you should trust when he says stuff. Puglia is in the house. Hey, Puglia, been a minute. Uh, Jim, that does not apply to football games. You'll have to, since Jim's not on, can you refresh that for me, Puglia? I'll read it when you pop it up. I'll definitely see what you're talking about that, and I'll get that sussed out. I'm going to put in the invite. If you want to join the show, please accept the link. I don't want to hear myself talk. I'm here for you guys. Let's see. Greg again says, who else would claim to me that wasn't? Who else would claim to be me that wasn't? There are people actually, Greg, believe it or not. Welcome to all the new Big 12 members. This is a shout out Cincinnati, Houston, BYU. Oh, and who's that other school? UCF in the house. I know there's a bunch of kickoff activities going on at these schools, like a midnight March Madness type of a excitement that they're doing, and you're going to be able to buy gear. That's my most important thing. I've been saving my pennies to buy some new Big 12 BYU gear. And since I haven't made this to the last couple shows, I want to give an update on my background. Everybody can see that I took down the Liverpool flag. I've got it up other places. It hasn't left my house, left my house, people. But behind me, after a couple suggestions from people, I'm going to turn this into a little studio behind me. So you're going to see shelves going up. You're going to see new signage. And I want to just try to tap into all the energy of people sending stuff to blue and gold dude. By the way, still miss him. The guy was amazing. But I want to start putting up helmets. I want to start putting up gear behind me to represent the schools that really care. And if you're following this show and you're following Big 12 Mafia and other Big 12 news, you're going to be in the know. As soon as realignment's done, I'm going to start traveling the different schools. No, not in person, but I am going to do video with people that I've followed on Twitter, and we're going to do research on each one of these schools. So if you have stuff you want to get, you want to send me, I will at the end of this chat, or actually I'll do it right now. Actually DM me and I'll send you my address. That's probably safest. But I'm happy to give that to you. And if you want to send me stuff, I will absolutely show it. Robert Flan said, thought so, Greg Swaim. Yeah, that's true. Let's see. Greg again, still think the Pac-12 will go with either PBS or Pornhub. PBS because they're so smart, Pornhub because they're about to get, I'll say it, screwed. Is that what you're saying there, Greg? Yeah, tell me, you guys, what you think about Greg's comment there. If the Pac-12 doesn't get a bigger deal, the numbers that we've been hearing is 20 to 25 million and about 70% streaming. So, yeah, I don't think that's what they want. We got a new member in the house, Larry Pilgrim. Thank you, Larry. It's great to see you here. You guys join and just makes me feel so good. I really appreciate you spending your time and resources watching me. Please tell your friends. Everybody subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment. So far, I've responded to every comment that I've ever seen in the comment section on YouTube. And I want to keep doing that. And I want to take your ideas. The signage and the change in my background was one of those ideas. So you come to me with something big, I will absolutely put it into action. Robert Franz says, Greg, you know I picked the hub for the Pac-12 Pornhub. That is funny stuff. The hub, Dallas Marquez. Thanks for being here, Dallas. Nice to see you. Greg says, not that I've ever seen that channel, but have heard things. Yeah, I don't know if I'd put that past Greg right now. Let's see here. Greg Swain, Bomber, doing a great job. Just keep doing chat from, I'm going to say that again. Bomber doing a great job keeping chat from covering up Jim. Yes, Jim is the star, not I. That's right, Greg, and that takes practice, by the way. Let's see here. Puglia says, I hope it's Puglia, really? SDP and VMix production? Is that Scott Van Pelt? No. What is STP, which is the new digital tech he's been talking about, is not the same as multicam production. Oh, you're talking about doing remote coverage for games. Yeah, you know what? If I had more time with Jim, I would have followed up that. But yeah, I'm not sure. That's a good point. I personally did not like the remote covers that Fox did last year in the Pac-12. I really hope we don't get that in the Big 12 because remote coverage, honestly, it was kind of stupid. I did not like it at all. Let's see here. Greg Swain, very envious in the terrific new graphic intro. Thank you. I'm working on that. I've got one. Hopefully, I'm going to have one coming that is just branded for Mafia. But if you've seen the Holy Rivals show, I've got an incredible open and close that were given to me, and uh, every time I watch it, it brings me to tears how amazing it is. So you'll have to tune in next to the Holy Rivals show, and you'll see that open and closed and be impressed. Uh, Puglia says Jim knows he's talking about two technologies that can work together but are not the same thing. So when you say Jim knows, you meant Jim would have been able to answer that. I'm sorry I didn't get to you, Puglia. I was more intent on asking him questions, and boy, scrolling through these things is not as easy as it looks, guys. Um, let's see here. Tulane Tim in the house. Green Wave, Tulane Tim, what do you think? Are you going to get an invite? I personally think that you've shown that you can play. You might have to do it for a few more years to get a Big 12 invite, but I don't know why you wouldn't go to the Pac 12. I just posted the link to join the show. Click on that link or copy it into your browser. We can do Android, Apple phone, computer, Macintosh, doesn't matter. Macintosh, I just dated myself. Let's see, Puglia, he knows his stuff, just kind of being very selective about how he distributes the info. Isn't that the truth? Trying to get to the nitty gritty with Jim is extremely hard, just so you guys know. Let's see, Patrick Boren says, what does ESPN and the Pac have in common? Oh, is this a one-liner? It is. The end for sure is June 30th, 2024. That is a fact, people. The media deal ends June 30th, 2024. They can't go any longer than that. If they even go to media days this next month, I think they're crazy because it'll soak up all the positive coverage that their schools are going to get for football. It's going to wash it all out, and all people want to talk about is the media deal. Klyavkov, if he doesn't do that, he needs to find a new job. Patrick Bourne says they have been critiquing John Canzano, Marshawn, and others, so we'll just join the club. I'm not going to stop you. They have been very critical. I want to make another statement. Jim was very politic about this, but I just got to tell you guys, if you're following groups, and I don't care who they are, shows or whatever, that 90% of their show is negative, ripping on contributors and partners in some cases, or other people in the media, I would really try to tell you to steer away from those. At least steer away from them without having that jaded eye to the stuff they're putting out. Because I can tell you right now, the community's small, and if you're ripping on other people out in the world that are dealing with collegiate athletics and realignment in particular, I would tell you to avoid that negativity because there's no reason to have it. That's just my opinion. Let's see here. Greg Swain says Jim obviously is much classier than I have been when the guy and his kid talks trash about me or my friends. I think I just said that, Greg. Well, yeah, I've seen you whipping some of these kids around on Twitter. Keep that up, Greg Swain. Let's see here. Patrick again. A soft answer turns away wrath. Thank you. But hard to live by when the bombs are dropped. There's nowhere to hide if you've been laying carpet bombs everywhere you go. Tulane Tim says, Ross Dellinger. What does that mean, Tim? I don't know what that means. Oh, Tulane. You're saying, is that today? Get me that link. Put that in the comment section. Get me that link, and I want to bring it up. I haven't seen that. Ross Dellinger saying Tulane possibly moving. That would be great for Tulane. Let's see. Patrick again. Get some tips from Sikkim 365 as they have been out on location and can tell you all their horror stories. please, please, I am asking for your sympathy. That was a disaster yesterday. But I think I did the best job I could considering one of my mics wasn't working and I had a hard time flagging the players down. I think I did a pretty good job. But yeah, I know, Patrick, it's hard to do remotes. Puglia says football games still need to be pronounced with produced and SDI is not used. Yeah, we're gonna have to do a whole show on production. Puglia, send me a DM and we'll do a whole tech show because all this stuff you're talking about, I know nothing about. Linear games aren't guaranteed, so we just want explanations for your tweets. It's not personal. Jim seems nice. Okay. I don't know why that mattered. To me, maybe he misspoke, maybe he didn't. Why does everybody care? That's my only question. And if somebody's in the comments that will join my show that can explain to me, justify that type of treatment of somebody else, I want to hear it. I want somebody to tell me why anything like that is justified. Because my dad taught me you treat people better than you treat yourself, and I don't understand. Who cares if he got it wrong? Let's even say Jim not only said something wrong, but he didn't feel like he had enough energy to delete the tweet to correct it. Who cares? That's my point, guys. So he said something that maybe wasn't exactly all 100%. It doesn't matter. Nothing Jim's going to do is going to affect the Pac 12 media deal. So why does it matter if you get a fact wrong? I'm happy to discuss that in detail with anybody that wants to review it with me. Luis Carlos Diaz in the house. SDSU, today's the day. I'm going to put you on emergency watch tonight, Luis. I might send you a DM at 11:59 just to see if you're catatonic or not. I feel bad for San Diego State and Boise fans. I do. Why is this not? Oh, Larry Pilgrim's got his eyeballs. Why is this not popping up? I apologize. Pickles, your comment. Oh, it's down here. There we go. There we go. I need to remember to do this. It pops up here, but it doesn't bring it up. So Sergeant Pickles, thanks for being here, Pickles. Appreciate it. Love talking to you on Twitter, having you on the show. I'm very humbled. He says, good afternoon. Some Big 12 fans are starting to believe their own speculation is facts. Pack implosion has been any day now for months. Well, Pickles, you have to take it the other way. The media deal has been every 2 weeks for months. So it goes both ways. Nobody wins at the end of the day. I think the Pac 12 has been damaged, maybe beyond repair. Their image has just been horrible. And these are schools I care about, and it sucks. But Big 12 fans, who has more control? The actual conference going out and doing messaging that is just crazy, over promising and under delivering, or fans? We're talking about fans here, Pickles, that all we can do is bloviate on Twitter, get on other people's shows on YouTube. We have no control. So I'd ask you to read your sentence here again and then tell me what's the any day now, which is the bigger any day now. And I'll leave it to you. I'll leave it to you there. Let's see. Larry Pilgrim, work busy lately. Work busy lately. Yep, work busy lately. I'm not sure. You're saying he's been working busily, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure what that meant. By the way, I don't think I said an amount for Sergeant Pickles, $4.99. Sergeant Pickles, that is amazing. Thank you so much. And if you become a member of $4.99 or a $9.99, just know all your messages will be brought forward, and we'll always bring them up. So subscription's easy and simple, and I just love to have you guys here. I'm going to bring all these up. This is why I need a PA to come and do all these, so you all get recognition. Let's back up here. I'm not sure where I left off. Louis, oh no, wait. Let me do Day Old Donuts first. Welcome to the show again, Donuts. The Big 12 and Pac-12 need to merge. I 100% agree. Joint powers is the only way to compete against the Big and SEC. My contention has always been that if the Pac-12 and the Big 12 were able to get past their differences and were able to do a full merge, protecting all the schools that currently belong, they would not only be the third best conference, in my opinion, they could fight for that higher position with more media money and exposure. I'm on record saying that, and I 100% agree with you. Let's see, Luis Carlos Diaz. SDSU is not going to the AAC. Okay. I think if they don't make P5, then they stay in the Mountain West. Why do you want to stay in the Mountain West? Answer this for me, because if you stay in the Mountain West, you're making a lot less money. The AAC gets between 7 and 9 million per team every year. The Mountain West does 4, and you have more exposure because now your brand is being shown to 75% of the United States population. You guys, and I've said this for a while now, San Diego State guys need to get out of their little shell about the Pac-12, one, caring what happens to them, because they don't, and two, that the exposure you guys want isn't from people west of the Rockies. The exposure you want is with everybody on the Eastern time zones. That's how you build your brand. That's why BYU's brand is as strong as it is, because they've been playing these games all around the country. Any time zone, name it, they go. Coastal Carolina a few years ago, they took a game on 3 days rest. Insanity, right? But that's how you get street cred. That's how people know more about you. And I would just tell you, uh, uh, Carlos, I'm going to say Carlos, it's easier. Get back with Joel, get back with the rest of you guys, come up with a plan about how you actually get into the AAC and get more coverage. Who cares if the travel's a bit more? It's all about exposure. And the next media deal is going to be 100% about exposure. I'm just saying it now. Aztec country, I think we're going to the American or independent. I agree, 100%. Sergeant Pickles might take a bit, but I will have Washington and Montana items headed your way. Thank you, Pickles. I love it. Just so you know, anything that and this is for everybody, anything people give me as information, I protect more than my own. So I'm not going to reveal a source, never have, never will. I've never even intimated anybody's information out that they didn't want out. And I could name several people, which I won't, that I've protected their sources and still been able to get information out. So whether it's on the DL or not, Pickles, I really appreciate that trust you're putting in me. Thank you. Let's see here. Aztec country again. Unfortunately, noon has passed. There's nothing to be announced today. Oh, did I have that wrong? It was noon? I thought it was midnight. My fault. I'm uneducated. Sorry about that. I didn't realize noon was the time. I apologize. Larry Pilgrim says, Luis, 100%. I'm not sure which one he's saying 100% to. Larry, you'll have to explain that. Sergeant Pickles again. I try not to disrespect, but Greg is stoking the fire for clicks only. Wish he could actually stick to facts instead of hyperbole. So, Pickles, let me sort of chart this out for you. So we're creating this community, and it's called Your College Sports Connection. And it's a bunch of people that are going to get together and promote each other, but we're not signing any contracts. That we're not legally bound to each other, but we are together to promote each other's shows, to get our own fans to go to other people's shows, and in some cases mediate between them. Pickles here, I know, has had issues with stuff Greg has said in the past. And what I would like to say, Pickles, is I would like to ask you to not block him, and I'll ask Greg right now if he's got you blocked to unblock you. And let's start that dialogue again, because Greg is now going from Shock Jock Radio, which has been his bread and butter, to online. And so he needs your support. He needs everybody's support that's in here to make his show popular. He can't take necessarily every radio listener and put it into a show. So I guarantee you, while he's never going to change his temperament, and he's never going to just make facts up out of the air, his tone, I'm predicting, is going to change a little bit, and you will be able to disagree with him without being disagreeable. And I think from Greg's side, and I don't want to speak for him, but I am, you're going to see some changes in the way he does his reporting out. We've already talked about ways to protect information, and maybe not to go with that first dog whistle of information and sit on it for a little bit. And we're doing that as a team. And I count Greg as a partner of mine. So I'm just asking you to give him a chance, if you could. Again, Mr. Monkey says, glad to hear you're going to put Big 12 signage up. Yep, it's coming. It's coming. It'll be back here. I'm going to either tonight at the BYU kickoff thing or tomorrow at BYU's Big 12 days. I'm going to go down there and I'm going to buy a bunch of BYU Big 12 branded stuff. And one of those signs is going to be a Big 12 sign. It's going to be right behind me. And I'm replacing the pennants with shelves that are going to contain things that people send me. So if you want to send me something, send me a message and I'll give you my address. I'll DM it to you. I don't care if you dox me later or whatever. Let's see here. Pickles in the house again. He says disagree on that one. All Big 12 people want to talk about his media deal. Pac-12 fans are mostly in the recruiting and training camps coming soon. Again, Pickles, this is winding up. I won't name them because they're not here, but there's several other guys that I'm partners with that they've turned the page and they're now talking football. I for myself, while it gets clicks, I hate that word, but it drives activity. I am ready to be done with it. I built this channel not on realignment like some of these other ones who I won't name. It's not realignment. It's going to be talking to players, getting hands on the ground in some of these other schools and doing interviews, getting news reports. And realignment, yeah, it'll still be there. It's never going away, people. But it's going to be more about the stuff most people care about and not this stuff because frankly I'm as tired of it as anybody else. I think it went well for the circumstances. I'm not sure what that means, Larry. I'm sure I missed something back here. I posted the link again. If you want to join the show, you want to talk, please take that link. I'd love to talk to you. Dale Donut says, I'm just counting down for Washington, Oregon in the big to be announced. I hope it happens, Donuts. Well, it means I won't see him much here on the west side. I don't want any, I don't know about Oregon, but Washington, I want to be in the Big Ten. So I hope that happens. I'm hearing things that maybe this round it's not. 3, 4, 5 years maybe is coming. Never mind, breaking news. SDSU will stay in the Mountain West. Just saw it on Twitter. Wait. Just saw it on Twitter, BS. See, here I am believing you, and then you say BS at the end. So I'm taking from that we're not sure where they're going to be. Is that right, Aztec? I'm going to guess AAC is still a possibility. If AAC is a possibility and it happens, I'm going to be one of the first people that should get credit for floating that out there because I did it a long time ago. Let's see here. Another Pickles. Appreciate the super chat, Pickles. Let's see. Oh, I already read this. Well, thanks for being here anyway. Aztec Country, dumb move by SDSU. I agree with you. If it's true, I think it's a major. You guys are not going to get exposures playing in the Mountain West. I think that really is a mistake. Maybe the realization dawned on you a little late about the Pac-12 screwing you, but if you want to play big boy football and you want to, I said the same thing about Utah State, Boise State, Fresno State. If you want to be relevant, the Mountain West is going to cease to exist. All the TV sets are on the east part of the country, and you guys just want to set up a Western bastion for one of those conferences. I'm just telling you now, you'll be in a P5 conference quicker if you're in the AAC. Patrick says, Sergeant Pickles, well, the implosion has been the speculation that there will actually be a Pac Meteorites deal. As I put out my tweet, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? I am hearing things, guys, and not from just Twitter posters. I'm not going to tell you who, but people that are in the business. And yeah, there could really be something out there. I don't know the timing on that or anything, but there are some real deals that are being talked about right now. Dale Donuts won't happen before big next media deal. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's see here. I already did that one. Patrick stole my thunder. Sorry. If you would have super chatted that to me, Patrick, I would have got it right up. I'm sorry. I didn't get to it. I apologize. Could be is, again, speaking about the Big Ten. Larry Pilgrim, Aztec, who reported it, the tweet. If you'll put the link in there, Aztec, I'd love to show it. And I'll put it on my second screen here, and everybody can actually see what that is. That would be fantastic. Now, Aztec Country is saying Pete Thamel. So somebody source that for me. Get me the link and put it in the messages here, and I'll show it to everybody. Larry Pilgrim says, Aztec, thanks for the update. I feel for SDSU. I really feel bad for SDSU. Sort of bad for SMU because I thought that was a bit of a joke, but definitely SDSU. Big 12 Mafia and the Holy Rival shows. I agree. Messaging has been bad from the pack. Pickles again. Difference is the media deal will get done, and the pack disintegration is unlikely to happen. Not this time around. Not this time around. But I wouldn't mortgage the house on it on a 10-year T-bill. I would not do that. Something big is going to happen in the next 5 years. Before the next media deals for the Big and the Big 12, something's going to happen. And we'll just leave it at that. Let's see here. That's me. Scroll down. Aztec Country again. Source: San Diego State is expected to deliver a notice to Mountain West today that it will not withdraw from the league, as the school previously stated it intended to do. San Diego State plans. Pete Thamel. If anybody didn't catch that, that was a Pete Thamel report. Patrick says, I'm surprised Yormark isn't having some ESPN Plus coverage of the 4 new schools parties. Patrick, you're reading my mind. Why didn't they do a countdown? I really think the Big 12 screwed this up. They should have done a countdown. They should have had remote teams at each one of these schools. They would have been doing live interviews all day long. Brett Yormark has been great. I think they blew this. Yeah, I agree. I don't know why they didn't do that. Sergeant Pickle says fans being impatient doesn't make the pack survive more or less likely. No, it doesn't. Fans have nothing to do with it. Aztec Country says to move forward as part of the Mountain West. Oh, yeah, we already answered that. It's not too late. Apply for the AAC. Pete Thamel's reporting. Mr. Monkey says SDSU will serve notice. Oh, yep. Sorry, I'm late on these guys. I'm just getting to these chats that weren't either they weren't subscribers or they weren't super chats. So if I duplicated, I apologize. Bomber, correct on the AAC exposure from the Midwest to the East. I didn't know that, Patrick, until who was the first one to report it? Maybe you can remember who reported that 75% of all the homes in the United States reside on west of the front or east of the Front Range. I'm not sure. I want to give credit. If you know who it is, please let me know. But the AAC is those 4 schools, specifically Air Force Academy even, needs to get together and they need to do something to break the GOR and apply to the AAC. Let's see. Big 12 Mafia and Holy Rival show isn't fair for comparison, is supported by the entire religion. I don't need to expound on that. That's true. Charles M says, wow, SDSU screwing with Mountain West now. Alternatively, this is not good for expansion in general. Not good for Pac-12 especially. I don't know about that, Charles. I'm posting the link again if you want to join the show. I'd really like to have somebody on here with me. I don't know if that's true, Charles. If the Pac-12 gets a deal that's 30 to 35, and yeah, it's going to be more streaming, but everybody's going streaming anyway. There are a lot more risks associated with that, but I don't know. The thing that'll sink the Pac-12 is big brands leaving, and I'm going to say the 3 biggest are Utah. Sorry, that was a Freudian slip. Not Utah. Wild Ute, do not come at me. Larry, do not clip that and put it on YouTube. Not Utah. I'm talking Stanford, Oregon, and Washington. And here to bail me out is the great late immaculate. How you doing today, man?
Hey, bud. How you doing today?
Oh, I'm losing my voice, but I am having a ball today.
Yeah, I was just listening. Larry said call in, but I was like, I'm going to wait to see if he gets down to my stuff and he still wants someone. Last time I came in right at the end of your show.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
It's all good. It's fine.
Yeah, I try to go as long as I go until people start to see the same comments, and then I hop off. Anyways, so what do you know for me today?
All I ever know, just putting this out there, is what I see. I don't have any sources that I go to and talk to. I don't rely upon that because you get into second and third hand. But what I've said, I think with you and with Greg, is that you touched upon it already. The Mountain West is in a bad location. It has great brands for its tier in a really bad area of the country in terms of viewership.
It does.
So it has to get out of there. It has to move. That's why Colorado State and Air Force in 2021 tried to get to the American.
Right.
That's why San Diego State's trying to get out. The only one not trying to push out of there is Boise because they got a sweetheart deal.
They do, but they want the exposure too.
Sure,
It wouldn't
sure.
surprise me to have those 4 schools get together and try to do something with the American.
I could see. I don't think a direct merge will happen because, unfortunately, the Mountain West is saddled with Hawaii.
Right.
No offense to anyone who's a Hawaii fan or in
Well,
Hawaii.
and San Jose
just-
State is the same.
Well, but the difference there is like how many miles is it from San Jose State to the island of Hawaii?
It's a long way.
It's a long way. So now you
Yeah,
think if
yes.
you're the American Athletic Conference and you're over on the East Coast and you're like, oh, we're going to be in a conference with Hawaii.
Right.
That's a no-go. So
Fair.
I don't think a direct merge happens, but I think you're going to see kind of this somehow some schools start to move from the Mountain West to the American and they form
Right.
the next conference underneath the Big 12.
And that's what I meant. I don't think a merge is happening either. I was talking
Yeah.
about that block of 4 schools: Fresno, San Diego State, Boise State, and Colorado State.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. How that goes about, I mean, that's not really, you really can't logically work your way through that because that just comes down to personal relationships and who
Of course.
wants to work with who. So
Right.
I don't know how that would come about, but that's kind of what seems to me the most logical choice is that some schools are going to start to move from the Mountain West to the American some way, somehow. But
Agreed.
I think it needs to happen sooner rather than later. And I know on your show, Larry was talking about that PAC deal that he
Right.
heard about.
Right.
Of everything I've heard, that actually makes the most sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
A 3-year deal is perfect.
I mean, it doesn't give security to the other schools, which begs the question, why not move to the Big 12 now? But
Well-
you're right. It does.
Do you think that there's a reason for that? I think what you got to think of in terms of any move, you got to have a +2.
Okay.
The year that you say you're going to move, you add 2 years, and that's when you go. So a 3-year deal is basically giving you a 1-year cushion.
We'll be doing this again.
and
next
that's it.
summer. Yeah.
And that's all it gives you is a 1-year cushion. It doesn't give you a 3-year cushion. It gives you a 1-year cushion.
The thing about it, though, is it's like Damocles' sword, right? The entire conference is going to be living underneath the edge of this giant blade, and they're not going to be able to breathe. I mean, let's give a good example. Schultz at Washington State, the president. Can you imagine another 2 years of this? His brain will turn to mush, right? We had a lot of information out there that these presidents they're not PR guys. So how can they be trusted to go through this again so quickly?
I don't know. And there's been some interesting comments made. Like one that really stuck out to me was when you had some of their presidents say, we are more unified than ever. And most
Right.
people kind of blew it off as, oh, this is another one of these PR comments. But I kind of looked and go, I actually think that there's truth to that.
Okay.
Not in that they're more united to be part of the pack than ever, but I actually think they mean on a bigger scale. I think that we're talking about the entire Power 5 structure
Right.
is actually more unified than ever and where they want to be. The problem is, how do we get there? Who goes where? How many do you bring up? What deal are you going to get? How many years do we have? We want to go there, not here. Well, they don't want you, so you got to go here. Like the details of where the devil is, so to speak.
Right.
But they all kind of want to go in the same direction. And I don't think anyone wants to be saddled with, problems of leaving anyone behind. I mean, we see that with the Big Ten. They're like, oh, we don't want to be responsible for this because like I've said with Greg, if they took 2 schools, if the Pac can get a deal, no matter what that deal is, if they can get a deal right now, the Big Ten's off the hook, so to speak, legally, whatever. Then anyone who wants to leave after that is choosing to leave. You have a
Of
choice.
course. Yeah.
You can choose this deal or you can choose to leave, but that's your choice. You're not being forced, legally speaking. So I think everyone is just trying to figure out where they're going to be.
Right.
And the bigger story, in my opinion, just by looking at values, and you touched upon it with how many more people are on the East Coast, is
Right.
the ACC. If there's anyone smelling anything going on there might be movement, there might be the whole conference getting separated between 3 conferences taking them. The Pac is the back burner.
Right.
They always have been. They've always tried to make a lot of noise to be at the top of the pecking order. They did it when they were trying to get Texas
Right.
by doing it publicly. That's just how they operate to try to get attention. But if the ACC is in play, the Pac is the back burner. So they probably need something to just survive
Right.
until the situation with the ACC gets figured out. Because if ESPN needs the Big 12 to be part of that, then the Big 12 probably really can't go taking 4 schools from the Pac right now.
You wouldn't think.
No.
Yeah, you wouldn't think.
They may have to take 4 to 6 from the ACC.
Right.
Just
All right, let's go through some of these comments. Larry's a recent subscriber. Thanks again, Larry. I need to work on the way it colors to me because all I see is a very dim green. So if I miss a comment of yours, it's just I'm trying to figure out how to see all these comments. But Larry says for one thing, he was okay with you getting on and answering for him. And then there again, he says that. And then just to follow it up, he gave you a thumbs up. So, you've got people that love listening to you talk, and I think that goes a long way. You have a lot of credibility.
I don't know how that happened, but I mean, that's nice of him to say.
Well, I think that's cool. So let me get to a few other these comments. GC, who by the way has been a valuable follower and viewer on YouTube for me. He says, check tweets by Ross Dellinger and Pete Thamel on updates. So everybody, when this show's over, go and look those guys up and you'll see the source documents for those alerts about San Diego State. And so where do they get left out?
SDSU?
Yeah.
Nah.
You think they're going to go still?
To the Pac?
Yeah.
No, not to the Pac. I don't think they're going to be part of that. They might. You know what? They might be part of that. It really is going to depend upon who the partners in that are. If it is going to go for 3 years, they might get in for 3 years, and then they can bridge from there to the AAC later if necessary or to whoever. But at least for 3 years, they'll be getting paid a lot more than they would in the Mountain West. So actually, I just might have changed my mind on them. I was always saying no. But having to think about it, if they do this 3-year deal that Larry brought up, then, yeah, I don't see why not. I mean, why wouldn't they at this point in time?
So there's your comment from earlier. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I'm trying to get through these. It's a very hard. You come be my producer, would you?
Oh, I'm the last person for that.
Mr. Monkey says, yep, immaculate. Me too. We missed the Jim Williams interview. It was awesome. Anybody who did not see Jim Williams at the beginning of the show, when this is over, go back and watch him. He doesn't necessarily like the Godfather nickname I gave him, but for me, he is the Godfather, and he'll answer some questions for you. He also answers, and I want to put this out there for him. I gave Jim an opportunity to explain explain a little how he felt after he was rudely attacked yesterday. I won't say who, I won't say why, but both Larry Pilgrim and Jim Williams were attacked on a show, and it was beyond the pale. And Jim goes with his demeanor. He just turned the other cheek and went on.
I think I was there. I know what you're talking about. And
how did you feel when you heard that?
Oh, par for the course. I don't watch that show for necessarily for the news, so to speak.
Right.
Every once in a while, you can glean a little bit from it. He goes over stuff, and it can be entertaining. But at times, it's a bit combative. Like he's one of these people trying to this is my space in this whole thing.
Right.
That's kind of how it came across to me. It's just territorial.
I thought it was vindictive.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but that it
felt like it had a reason behind it. And that's what I wanted Jim to set all our minds at ease, that if he doesn't care, we shouldn't care.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've seen something like that. Definitely won't be the last. If you're in this game right now and you've got a position, there's probably a lot of jockeying for influence, because that influence means you get the information, which means you get the hits, which means you get the money.
Right.
So
it's
I
very
take it with
Lord
a
of
grain
the
of salt.
Flies. It's very Lord of the Flies, you know.
I mean, if you're there, expect to get a few bruises. That's how I see it. It's roll with the punches.
when I went into this, I knew stuff like that was going to happen, and just sort of you try to do better, and be the first one to apologize, be the first one to own mistakes, and people respect that, and they respond to it. Um, my show's not even 3 months old, guys, and I'm fully monetized on YouTube. I have 2,000 followers on Twitter, almost 1,500 subscribers to this channel. That didn't happen overnight, and a lot of that I attribute to just being honest with people and forthright and owning decisions. So when I see anything else, it kind of rankles me a little bit. Sergeant Pickle says SDSU not coming. Well, while unfortunate, changes very little in the pack end of things. I agree with that, Pickles. I don't see why they couldn't be added next year anyways. So wait a second.
He's kind of saying the same thing.
Yeah. So
my question would be, who comes with them though, if that happens?
Yeah.
Like, because they're not going to do it alone. There's going to be someone else. So
yeah, who would the other actor be?
That's the thing that's going to be bugging me in my head, because that's something that you use to start to break apart the Mountain West. So pick, very importantly, what piece you think breaks that down even more, and then that's when you'll start to see Mountain West schools go talk to the AAC.
Right.
So I would pick that one very carefully if I was Pac.
How do you feel about SMU's candidacy right now?
To me, that just sounds like SMU's they're playing the Pac game. They're playing, hey, we do and say anything to get ourselves out in front and center, so people talking about us. If people are talking about SMU going somewhere, going upwards, it's a bonus for them. Like, they don't have to ever spend that kind of money. But we know they have that kind of money in their donors. So if they're talking about it, it's going to be looked at as possible. It doesn't have to be what happens. It just has to be possible.
I think you want to stay in everybody's front of their mind, right? You want people to pay attention to you. They definitely have gotten more smoke talked about them for the last 9 months than they have in 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, maybe that's what they want. I don't know.
I think at some point in time, the Big 12 will return to pulling schools from the G5 ranks. So
but I don't think that's SMU though. I think that's UConn. That's a San Diego State, maybe a Boise.
My problem with San Diego State to the Big 12 is that they're already going to have to take a bunch of Pac schools. They may not have room once we do divisions. If we do divisions of 5, they're full. There's no room.
I hadn't even thought of that, actually.
Yeah, it's more of a logistics thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's great brands out west.
Right.
They just that's not the whole picture though. So whereas like an SMU being where they're located at, they're where the headquarters of the Big 12 is.
Right.
So I mean, they got to have some people who know, side to side. So
the only way I think that happens is if TCU goes to the SEC or the Big 10. SMU could be a great backfill.
I don't see SMU as giving them Dallas, so it's not really a market pick, even though it's in that market. I just mean as in, like, top SMU brass have probably gone to lunch and dinner with Big 12 brass. So like they have those conversations. What they are is they're spending this is a funny number, $250 million, I think, on a brand new stadium.
Right, I saw that. Yep.
It's all about having a location that is good for TV. Like, if you see some of these new stadiums that are coming, they're not big, huge, massive. It's the Baylor effect, right? Like Baylor Stadium is not big and huge, but it's nice looking. It looks great on TV because scale doesn't always carry on TV.
Right.
So as long as it looks good, like if you see what the USF's concept is,
that was insane, the amount of money they got. 350 million or 70 million, something like that.
But if you look at it, it doesn't actually look like it has that much seating.
No, it's just about it, but it's just about raising your profile, wanting to be in the game. I mean, San Diego State's stadium only has 35,000. So it's not like even new stadiums have to be have to be large as much as it's brand new. And showing that you want to invest.
Just has to look like Northwestern's new stadium is actually going to have less people capacity than their current one, but it's going to look great on TV.
That's the new model.
That's the thing. It has to look good on TV. You don't. They're getting so much more money from that
Right.
in the future, that to get yourself up into that next tier of conference is really where the goal is. So I think that SMU is definitely playing for a future Big 12 spot.
Right.
I don't think they actually want to go out west. That's for the same reason that Texas said they didn't want to go out west, and that's
Right.
the 2-hour difference
Flight.
in time.
Oh,
Because if
time.
you're out there
That's
and
all.
you play and your game ends at like 7 o'clock at night, just for any
Right.
of your Olympic sports, by the time you get cleaned up, get to the airport, it's 8, 9 o'clock, you automatically lose 2 hours coming back before you even fly. Then you
Right.
have your hour-and-a-half flight. It's people think that they don't care about students, but I think that they do. And that's one of the main reasons why you're not going to see schools going west
Yeah,
to
it's going to
join.
be tough. And that,
So
so let me get this to Pickles, and then I had a question for you. He says, I agree that in 5 years or so, things could change a lot. I think everybody's looking 5 to 7 years. I just take issue with people pretending like Pac is dying next week. I think, look, when the book is written on this realignment cycle, I think there's two things are going to stand out. One, the Big 12 wants to stay relevant, and their fans know it, and so they are want to do whatever they can to expand with the best university brands as possible. So that's number one that we've learned. And two, that realignment really has no borders with distance or anything else, right? So you could end up having 3 conferences going coast to coast. Time and distance has been shrunk that much.
yeah, I think one of the big mechanisms that I see for the future I've talked about is the conference tournament. And the reason why that's going to be so big is because of content, supply, and demand. If we get down to like 6 conferences, all of those games are going to be wanted on TV. So everyone's going to get a lot more money going down to even down to the G5s.
Right.
Which is why they're playing ball with the playoff system right now. But that's why that's going to change a lot. Basically, we'll just say the future of that's going to be a lot different. And I actually think that the G5s are going to benefit more from this, or at least as much as anyone else.
Consolidation, I think,
Consolidation.
put their best brands together. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tend to look at it in the math side of it is that if you were to get down to 6 conferences of 25 schools,
Right.
that's 150 spots. There's 131 schools right now. That gives you room to maybe even bring up some more, like, I don't know, the Ivy League. And then now all of their conference tournaments will get them more money than they have ever made on any type of TV deal before previously. Just the
Right.
conference tournament alone for like an AAC or whatever. And that's just due to supply and demand. There's very little content once you're done with the regular season.
Right. I want to get this comment really quick from Mr.
Yeah.
Monkey. He's saying, yes, I agree. I can't believe there is an announcement party. I really think that they made a mistake. They blew that. It's a missed opportunity they'll never get again, which I think is unfortunate. We've got Larry that's joined us, Immaculate. I'm not sure if you could see him. So, Larry, you came on. Is there something you want to you can be here just to kind of do what Immaculate and I are doing. We can just sort of shoot the crap if you want, unless you had something you wanted to say today.
Oh, no, it was with the SDSU thing. It really got me to thinking, and obviously some spitball ideas here. This is all this is.
Right.
Why wouldn't the Pac-12, and Sergeant Pickle's been replying, why wouldn't the Pac-12 back SDSU is, to me, the biggest question. And
My guess is because if they did pick up another school, it would drop below some Maginot line that basically is hard coded. And the presidents don't want to take anything less than X. And I think it's all based on PR.
Right. And I started thinking, if this is that 3 to 5 year situation, and I do not want this to happen. I love my Utes. I don't want 6 teams from the Pac-12 going to the Big Ten. And I don't want relegation. I don't want 2 power conferences. As much as I love my Utes,
Yeah.
and don't want them to fall by the wayside. I pray that is not the direction this is going.
Agreed.
But what do you think, Immaculate?
As far as the two conference thing,
Yeah, why? I don't. If you're going to pick up SDSU, I mean, now would be the time.
Well, as far as why the PAC would bring the SDSU, to me, that's going to come down to, I try to talk about the market stuff, supply and demand. Who are they making a deal with? How much content do they need? You don't want to have too much supply when you're dealing with in that negotiation, because then you're getting the short end of the deal. So if they don't need more than the 10 they already have for this 3-year deal or whatever, then they're not going to pick up more. But if it helps them out in some way just to have that content, that location, whatever it might be a Boise State. If you're bringing a Boise State, well, now you're being looked at as maybe you're having some more competition. If you bring in UNLV for a location, I don't know. It just depends upon what the deal is. But in terms of a Power 2, that whole concept seems to be born out of fear. People fear that happening, and with good reason. But I go back and I say, if we were going to have that happen, those conferences had the perfect chance to do that in 2015, and they chose not to do it.
Right.
They had all the power in negotiation and the ability to do it, and they chose to have the autonomous capability within the NCAA instead. So I don't think that you're ever going to have a situation where there's like two conferences and they have their own tournaments. And
yeah, I don't either.
But people fear that and they're worried about that, and I think that that's a viable fear. And so I try not to be like, well, that's a dumb idea or a stupid idea, because it's not. It's just I don't think that that's where anyone wants to go, because it causes too many legal problems.
I want to get a shout out here, Larry, and then you can respond. I just wanted to shout out that we were talking about the 75% of homes on the east side of the country. That actually came from Sam Bradshaw at 365 Sports, who I love those guys, and they have a great team. And I wanted to make sure Sam got credit for that. So you go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, so that's a great point, and that's why I like having him on here. He seems like a very business-minded person, and you can have, really good conversations. And when you just brought up, what I automatically went to when you said SDSU is the networks, whoever these distributors are that are kind of making the calls and who they're going to pay for. I mean, I'm going to throw this out there. Say it is Apple. Do you think Boise would bring more money to Apple than San Diego State in subscriptions? I think that's valid. I've seen Boise State fans. Mm-hmm. I think you would get more subscribers bringing Boise than you would SDSU.
They are more active. There's no doubt about that. It's a fact, they bring more eyeballs to games. They're just maybe just a little more passionate, but unfortunately, geography is going to be their biggest challenge.
Yeah, I don't have the numbers. I would say it definitely seems possible, though. Like just in terms of Boise fans, they don't have their own pro teams there. They don't have all this other stuff up there. It's kind of like the Nebraska effect to some degree,
same thing with BYU and Utah. The exact same thing.
Yep. And so I would say, if I was running that, I would look at that and say, plus it's a more known entity across the country too in terms of branding, because of what Boise State has done in the past.
Right.
San Diego State fans can point to the tournament this year, but that was in basketball.
Right.
Boise State's is in football, and we all kind of remember that because of their stadium, which would be shown. The games would be shown, and so Apple would probably want games in that stadium more than they would want games in San Diego State Stadium, if that makes sense.
I agree. Really quick before we go to the next statement, if you want your comment or conversation to be highlighted on the show, either send me a super chat or subscribe. I've got a subscriber level that's all of $2 now. You won't have, $3. You won't have access to some of the back end conversations that I'm going to have with my teams, but you're still going to have all your comments highlighted, and I am getting through them. I did find out I have a technological challenge in that they're not highlighting for me when they do that. So I'm working on that, but that's how you get your comments read. Dale Donut says local sports talk in Vegas talked about Arizona this morning, saying the Pac was never serious. Saying the Pac was never serious about going to 12. What do you guys think of that?
Yeah. Is
that believable?
Sports talk. It's certainly possible.
Yeah, possible. And this academic, the academics thing, when we bring up Boise, SDSU, I mean, Utah gets claimed as being very snotty, but let's be honest, they're no Stanford when it comes to that. So,
right.
How does the academia play into bringing people in? And maybe they weren't really serious. I'd heard rumblings about, the California school system, because I think there's two different systems there.
Right.
And they weren't real happy about bringing SDSU into the club. That was just
that sounds tribal to me. That sounds tribal, like blood oath type stuff.
Yeah.
Let's see. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Real quick. I tend not to get caught in the details of like who or what, like whether it's SDSU or SMU. And I kind of lump it all in together as stories that buy time for George Kliakov.
Right.
Whether
I agree.
I don't think that's why I say it seems feasible that they were never interested in adding anybody like SDSU or SMU. And it's just talk to kind of keep people busy, to look at it, put it out there, see if your partners, when they read it, they're like, oh, we don't like that or we like that. I don't know. But yeah, it's certainly possible that they would not want to add anyone unless whatever partners they're going to have say, we want more content to pick from and we'll pay for it.
The 30 for 30 episode is going to be titled The Screwing of San Diego State University.
They did kind of get the short one on this.
It's not okay what they've done. These are good people I've gotten to know in the last year, and they don't deserve. Same thing that happened to BYU in 2016. Exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they were used to some degree, probably.
Mr. Monkey. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, it just brings me back to what USC did during the 2021 season. Worked out great for BYU. And I'm sure BYU's grateful that went down.
Yes.
Big beneficiary, and kudos to them.
Yep, you're exactly right. Mr. Monkey says, that should be a one-liner lean, I think. Mr. Monkey says, your mark is so savvy on promotion. I really expected an event. Oh, back to the event thing with the 4 schools. I'm stunned that didn't happen. I completely agree with you. All right, let's see if we can get through. Pickles says football money, while important, is 1 + 1. Actual realignment math is calculus. So he's talking, you go from simple addition, subtraction to advanced math, calculus, trigonometry, and whatnot. That is why SDSU will stay in the Mountain West. That's pretty harsh, actually. I'm not sure how to take that. Let's see here. And another one from Pickles. You're talking about a $3 million increase, but how much higher will travel costs be? No. It's the investment in the future, Pickles. You're not doing that move to do anything for yourself right now. In fact, you might be losing money for 2 or 3 years. What you're doing is you're laying the groundwork. So when this next, maybe whether it's 4, 5 or 3, whatever it is, you want your name and recognition to be in that hat for saying, hey, SDSU, look what happened after this last time. Yeah, they got screwed, but look what they turned around and did. They improved their I don't know. They won a playoff game. I don't know what it is, but if they get that higher profile stuff, the better way to do that is in the AAC. You guys disagree?
You want to take that one first?
I feel like I think the AAC pays a little. I think they're actually, aren't they around $9 million? So
no. Oh, the AAC is 7 to 9 depending on the school. The Mountain West is 4.
Right. So if you could say that it might be a wash in the end as far as travel costs.
Right.
Like it might break even. So I don't know if that would be a great move, because if the AAC without the 3 that are departing, it's not the same AAC.
Right.
So right now, the Mountain West with Fresno, San Diego State, to me, are just as strong as the AAC at this point.
Oh, they have better
So-
brands for actual playing games, but they just don't get any exposure, right? It's the same problem the Pac-12 has had.
Correct.
So, yeah, I agree with you. Boise State, San Diego State, Fresno, Air Force, Utah State has come on. They're much better football brands, but nobody watches them. It's just tough. Go ahead, Immaculate.
I would say a move to the AAC is not about the short-term money.
Right.
It's about the long-term money. Whatever their deal is right now, it's going to change. If consolidation happens and both the P5 vote is then controlled and the playoff committee company, it's an actual company, is then all in accordance together, you could have, like I was saying, the conference tournament system tied into a tournament of champions. And when that happens, a conference like the AAC will get more money from that conference tournament alone, which then would lead a champion into the national tournament, than what they've ever made before in a TV deal, because there's a glut of games for the networks to choose from in the regular season. That's why the lower conferences can never get money.
Right.
But in a postseason situation where they'd have a conference game, that conference tournament that leads directly to that to the big tournament, that all of a sudden becomes valuable. People love underdogs. They want to see the Cinderella story. They'll watch that. So to a network, that becomes valuable. So you don't move to the AAC for the short-term money. You move to it for the long-term money.
100% agree. Mr. Monkey says can't be 32 to 35 million guaranteed for 3 years, except for his caveat is unless the visibility is terrible. I asked Larry this the other day, and I'll ask you both, what is the most amount of, or let me do it the other way. What is the smallest amount of linear you guys would say is okay?
Go ahead, Immaculate.
I'll keep this short because I don't have skin in this game, even though I am down here at Arizona State. But to me, if we're doing a 3-year deal, that's really just a bridge to what's going to actually happen. Then the amount of linear, I hate to say, but it doesn't matter. Like, this is your best deal you're going to get just to get you there. I would say 0 to 100%, whatever it is, just give us enough money to manage our athletic departments in that amount of time, and then we'll make our moves later as they become available. But I would say linear in that sense doesn't matter. If it was a 10-year deal and this is a long-term deal, then all of a sudden, oh God, like as much as you can. So not having any or very little is, I think that's enough for people to move if that's all that's holding them back.
Larry?
I've got a very deep opinion on this. I feel like if you're being strong-armed by the networks and they're lowballing you, but offering you linear options, at some point somebody's going to have to stand up and say there's got to be another way.
Right.
And so I feel like that's kind of a head that it's come to. And like I've said before, about the only games the Pac-12 people are getting exposure to east of the Rockies is if they're on late or if there's just no other game on.
Right.
So exposure to me isn't any different if they're on, like I've said, FS1 and ESPNU is not exposure. I don't care what anybody says. Go look at the ratings. It's just, they're horrible. I've seen good matchups that are on at noon and 3 o'clock, and they can't even break 500,000 with Big 12 Power 5 teams that are decent. So I say you just call the bluff of the ESPN and Fox and screw them. Take the Apple deal, because the people that have been watching you are going to be the ones watching you anyway. regardless of where you're at.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
If I could add numbers to it, we only have one example. And that example is the Big Ten's deal with NBC.
Right.
NBC is getting 12 to 14 games on linear.
We're talking Peacock? Are you talking about
8
Peacock?
exclusive games on Peacock.
Okay.
Which means these games aren't on TV. These are 8 on top of those. So I would say that's probably your ratio. If you're really looking for one, like you don't want to just listen to some person blather on about it and you want to actually look at some numbers, that's where you got to go to look. That's probably where the industry is looking right now, is what's valuable right now. And so if you're figuring out that as a percentage, it's just somewhere just slightly above, right around the 50% mark, basically.
Okay. BR, who's a new subscriber, I already said it once, but I want to say it again. He says Immaculate sounds a lot like Ute. I would take that as a compliment because Ute is a fantastic partner.
Yeah, it seems like a good, smart guy, knows what he's talking about. He came up with the whole that ranking setup that you had, so I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah, he likes doing stuff like that. I'm in the background holding my breath. I'm like, all right, come on, just let me go out to recess. Do I have to really be in class here? But he does it well, so.
It takes both, man. That's why you guys are a good team. It takes the person who can like connect with everyone, and then someone who can kind of bring in some stuff that makes people think.
That was the plan, so I'm glad it's working. Sergeant Pickle says people forget that the PAC was in the late 90s and early thousands. If you've forgotten, you've been living under a rock or something. The USC teams of the 2000s were incredible. They were a top conference until Larry Scott and presidents pissed it all away. Yeah, I think that's probably true.
The PAC's always been a great conference. It's just always had the viewership issue, and that's never really matters as much as it does in our today. So that's why you're seeing the PAC becoming weaker in relative power. It's always been good at the sports stuff.
They haven't done themselves any favors with the PR. No. This last year's been horrible.
I think they've taken some risky moves that they had to make, and it didn't work out, and so they look bad.
Yeah. Larry, this was a comment you put out earlier. I'm sorry to get into it late. Did you want to add anything to that?
No, that's why I called in, as I was really curious as to your guys' thoughts on why they didn't back SDSU.
Yeah, that's crazy. Charles M says Jim Williams totally outclassing the Monty Jughead thugs, big waterheads. Well, I'm just going to say it again. Your time and energy is worth a lot of money. And if you're giving it to people that aren't respectful and nice and kind to other people, I think it's not good. But that's just my opinion. Let's see here. Mr. Monkey says those guys on the show are a little toxic. A little toxic. Sergeant Pickles from Larry. Do you want to add anything to this one, Larry, or is that more of the same?
Yeah, it's more of the same. Everything in my comments I've kind of talked about.
I won't even read that. You guys can read that. Larry Pilgrim, without the media deal solidified, I don't think they leave on a blind offer. Possible media partner only wants to give them a small share to start. Are we talking about SDSU there?
Yeah, he's backing up Immaculate's situation.
Yeah, I agree. Isn't taking Wazoo and Oregon just like taking a G5? I don't think so.
Nope.
I don't think so.
And we have something to point to why it's not.
Right. I think the values, they were like Bob Thompson's thing last fall, they were at 23 million a piece. That's the same as Cal. No, maybe Cal wasn't on there. There were a lot of schools that were at that 23 million rank.
Well, even then, it's the Big 12 pro rata. It's literally in the contract in writing that P5s will get paid for, and that's why I push so hard on the P5 vote stuff, because these two major powers, the Fox and ESPN, have put it in this contract that they see at this point for the Big 12 equal value with all P5 schools. So a Washington State and Oregon State, they meet the bill for that. So whether or not you actually think that they're a higher value than the San Diego State or Boise State or anyone really, for whatever reason, people can disagree, but that P5 status seems to hold a lot of weight right now.
It does. Washington's going to be fine, Pickles. Nobody disagrees with that. It's just a matter of how quickly it happens. Dale Donut, Sergeant Pickles. So what you are saying is if they end up in the Mountain West, they will still outdraw their G5s? I don't know. Is that even a conversation? I don't think it matters. Not to say the question is irrelevant, but whether they draw like a G5, I mean, UCLA drew nobody last year, and they were like 7-8-0 at one point, and they still, their numbers are horrible. So, yeah, you can't really compare those two, I don't think.
I have my own theory about UCLA, but it's a bit out there.
Okay. Go ahead if you want to. If you think it's interesting.
The Big Ten first wanted USC and Stanford.
Yes.
I think Stanford's willing to go as a football-only school. They don't want to be a multi-sports member of the Big Ten, just like how the lacrosse school doesn't want to be what's the medical school out east that's a member of the Big Ten. But anyways, because they don't want their research and all of their kind of elite opportunities for their students to be shared with the Big Ten. The Big Ten shares internship programs. They share all kinds of things. If you're an elite school with all of this that kind of is kept in-house within your network, you don't really want to share that. So I think that Stanford was a part of that, and they said no. And then I think Washington, shout out to Sergeant Pickles there, was number 2. And then USC said no. So no, if we're going to be stuck out here with 2 schools, that's not close enough. Give us UCLA and we'll go. And then the Big Ten's like, okay.
Larry?
I have to agree a lot with that theory. Stanford, boy, when Stanford was good, man, they were a good draw. They were better than either of the LA schools.
Right.
When they were good. And yeah, I agree with Immaculate on sharing resources. It does seem to be like they're pretty stingency, and they have their contingent that
they have their own network. They have their own network. Like Utah is part of their network, I think. I think ASU is part of their network, and that's how your guys' schools have jumped so high in research so quickly, is you're getting stuff handed down to you from Stanford, because research comes in waves. Some years you're going to get more opportunities than what you can do at your school. So you need to have other schools that you can pass that on to. So you're still connected to it, because some years it's going to be lower than what your facilities can handle. And so you want to maintain those contacts. So you're always operating at peak efficiency. And so that's probably why Utah and ASU are not wanting to get away, but that's definitely why Stanford wouldn't want to go, is they're their own king in the research world.
Right, and in my opinion, it's Stanford that's kept this thing together all this time.
Probably.
Yeah.
Right, and
Go ahead, Larry.
I've got so way back, it's called Research Park, and Nathan probably knows where this is at, up by the Red Rock Butte Garden.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, so that's Research Park. I did a brand new building. I built a brand new building back there way back. And I went and we did an extension on another building in Research Park. And the pharmaceutical companies have basically taken up Research Park. And that is where Utah is making a lot of their money. And I just got told by one of my friends, he owns a huge electrical company. He said that Utah is buying up every building in Research Park right now, Nathan.
Is that right?
Yeah, he said they're just offering more money than the buildings would cost.
Are they going to tear them down and build a new campus or something?
No, I guess their research is getting ready to go even next level.
Good for them. That's great.
Yeah, so just a little inside stuff, has nothing to do with football.
No, that's a great background.
Yeah, and so that kind of backs up that Immaculate, like, the conversation on the pharmaceutical being tied in.
Right.
And so Nathan and I had a little bit of a conversation off platform here, and we kind of agreed on some of the Stanford stuff.
Yeah. And that
Yeah.
was nice to agree with you, by the way. Immaculate, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, just that one of the things I see talked about a lot is people talk about research stuff, and it's cool to see people kind of looking at these different areas and how it could affect realignment.
Right.
But here's the thing about relationships is you'd go into the pack as Utah, you make relationships, you're causing these connections. The pack gave you those connections, but leaving the pack doesn't necessarily mean you're going to lose those connections.
100%
because
agree.
those connections go beyond conference tying. The conference
Right.
brought you together to have those talks, but now say Utah and Stanford go in different directions, it doesn't benefit Stanford to cut that off, because if Utah is doing this work that gets brought to them by Stanford, that's keeping those connections for Stanford. So if they ever want to do the work from those agencies or those companies or whatever in the future, they can still take that without passing it on. So Utah has just as much value to Stanford in that situation. So if they've built that up already, it's not going to go away just because they end up in two
Right.
different conferences.
Another super chat from BR. What bothers me is that people feel like the Big 12 should take any P5 team that comes along. Big 12 can afford to be and should be selective, but Big 12 should project that image. They are on solid ground. Do any of us disagree with that?
To a degree, but
Tell me,
also
what do
to
you
a degree, I
disagree?
agree.
Oh, okay.
I think, I mean, like if your focus is to make ESPN as happy as possible with you, so you can get the best deals possible, because if you're doing them a favor now, it's with some promise of them doing you a favor later.
Right.
And so I'd say, and where they stand now, I think any P5 school thrown into the mix is a bonus for them, because what they're doing is kind of cool. Like, it's no longer going to be based upon what your top brands are. In the Big Ten and the SEC, it's all about hierarchy, and people hate that talk because they don't want to think about that in terms of their sports. You want to think either of these teams is meant to win, but it's not always the case. And the value in the Big Ten especially has been all about hierarchy, and the SEC is probably going to go in that direction too. But with the Big 12, that's not going to be the case. This is going to be the most, and when I say competitive, I don't mean national title producers. I mean, you have no idea who year to year is going to be strong. And to me, I've never really been that big of a Big 12 fan, but this Big 12 conference, I might be more of a fan of it than I've ever been in the past.
It's very compelling.
And I don't even have to have a team in the race to want to watch and see who's going to come out of this. You're going to have old P5 schools mixed with G5s, and this is kind of the melting pot, so to speak. So I think it's kind of cool, and I think that for them, an Oregon State will be worth more. A Washington State will be worth more. A Boston College will be worth more. A Wake Forest will be worth more in this conference than any other. So, sure, be picky, but at the same time, realize your conference is going to actually add value to schools that have not had good value in the past.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Joseph Terrell, thanks for being here, Joseph. I can't recall if I've seen you before. If I have, and I'm just forgetting it, forgive me. Otherwise, thanks for being here. He says, yeah, rug pulling an entire fan base. We're talking about San Diego State and to a lesser extent SMU. Just to have a backup plan is mean and damaging. I agree with that 1,000 times. 1,000%. Do you guys want to say anything about that?
I think we touched upon it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mean. Would I say damaging? You could probably certainly make the case for that. But if you can prove that they actually made promises,
right?
You could probably even say that's legally damaging. Mean, it's the business world. Yeah, it is. Realignment has been mean all the way.
Yep. Oh, sorry, Larry. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something?
No, agreed.
Okay. BR with another super chat here. Big 12 just tweeted the new media deal is finalized. Long form. What does that mean? Do you have a link, BR? I would love to show that.
The importance in that is long form.
Oh, I see what you did there. It's a joke.
No, hey, it's real. They didn't have the whole thing verbal, like all worded out. It's legalese,
okay.
but they
Oh,
had
okay.
all the detail, like what we're gonna have in it was done.
Okay.
But the big, long, full page, these things are huge.
Right.
Legalese, that's finished now. So, you could say it's official.
I want to thank Two Master for being here. Two Master, if you're just joining the show now, I wanted to let you know that, well, I'll just speak for myself. What I heard said about you on another show yesterday, I think was abhorrent. And you're a loyal listener, and you participate, and you're active, and you're a contributor. And just know that that would never happen on a show that respects and appreciates you. Just take that in the back of your head. Just think, is this really where I want to be putting my money and time? But
And
Two
if I
Masters
could,
got. Go
if I
ahead.
could say
Yeah,
that, I thought Two Massa handled himself very well in this situation.
I
Um,
agree.
It was that was the ugly part of the whole thing, in my opinion. Not the fact that he went after a public name, but that he went after
Right.
someone in his chat like that. So we'll leave it at
Well,
that.
just know that you're appreciated here, and I love to see you on the show. And please keep coming back. He says, could no SDSU invite mean a no CUUA departure? Is that what we're thinking right now?
Not connected.
Okay.
Good. I actually think he's got a great point there. If we go off, which to back your story up, I unscribed to Monty today due to not just me. I mean, I'm just a single person. I was there and saw what he did to Two Mast, and I just thought that was just way beyond and uncalled for a loyal listener who's never just called anybody a name or done anything derogatory to warrant the personal treatment that he received. So
Right.
I think he's got a great point, because what I believe, what I was told the other day would kind of back up the story of the 10 teams staying together.
Right.
Because if he's correct, if there was any doubt that CU and Arizona was leaving, you better get SDSU and you better get SMU, because you're not surviving with 8 members. So
Yeah.
I think that's really valid, but like Immaculate has pointed to, this could still be a year down the road to add SDSU.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
If I may.
Yeah, please.
In the short term, your logic is sound, and I see no issue with it at all. I would say, I think it's more of a long-term effect. Like I said, the PAC's been doing their overall priority has been to draw attention to them. Look at how valuable we are. Look at who all wants us, blah, blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. You should take us now. In the end, I think that they were put on the back burner for ACC stuff. So that's why I say whether SDSU makes it or doesn't make it to the PAC, it's not relevant to the CU Arizona thing, because we don't know if they really want to go or not. I honestly think there isn't a spot for them right now.
Right.
And I think Yormark is trying to tell us that when he says we're fine at 14 or whatever he was saying.
I agree.
It's right now they're not expanding, and I think they're on hold because of the ACC stuff.
I would agree with that. I think
yeah.
that story's been written. Two Master, I'm gonna post the StreamYard link in the comments. If you want to join the show, I'd love to get how you're feeling and give you an opportunity to say anything that you might want to say to the world who saw what happened to you and Larry and Jim Williams and a couple other people. So if you want to join the show, you're welcome to do that. Dale Donut says, BR, I agree. A month ago, Utah people started coming onto the big fan boards telling us how they are foolish to not take them, and how Utah was more deserving than my Huskers. Oh, you're talking about way back in the day. That's going way back, Nebraska.
He said a month ago.
I know. What I'm saying is you're associating with the Huskers, and that move, what happened a decade ago, right?
Yeah, I think they're just saying that because the Huskers aren't AAU, whatever, they should be removed. And
okay,
people talk about removal like it's a small thing, and
right.
And I'm not saying Dale, I'm saying whoever these other people are treating it that way. Removal from one of these conferences is next to impossible.
Right. No, of course, you're right.
If you're in the bottom half of it, do you want to remove a school that would vote no for you? Like
Probably
if you remove
not.
them, you might be next. So
Yeah.
that's just not going to happen.
We're winding this up. If you want any comments to be read right now, it'll have to be a super chat, or it'll have to be you subscribe, hit the join button in the Big 12 Mafia main YouTube page. It's right in the middle of the screen. It says join. Click on that, and I'll get you right in, and we can start taking your comments first. Dion's burner phone. I appreciate you being here, Dion. ESPN, Fox, and almost everyone else is not willing to pay big money for Pac-10. Why would they change? Let's see. Why would they change in 2 to 3 years? I just don't believe that the Pac is in short-term slump. What do you guys think about that?
It's a great comment. Go ahead, Immaculate.
I think I agree with him. I would tend to phrase things a little bit differently, but I think I'm in agreement with the guy. Is like, I don't think ESPN and Fox are going to pay him big money. And this is just a 2 or 3 year bridge. And so whether they're in a slump on the field or whatever, it's just not relevant actually to the conversation.
Something just, sorry. I was just going to say something popped in my head. If I could cut you off for just a second.
No, yeah, it's your show.
Right now, if the Pac and the Big 12 merged, how many teams would be in the league?
24.
The Pac has 10.
22.
22, right?
In 2024.
How easy would that? Yeah, how easy would that be to do in 3 or 4 years when Oregon and Washington go to the Big? 22 is an unwieldy number, is what I'm saying.
Well, you can take 2 more out of that as well. California and Stanford will not merge into the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Call on that one right now. So
Mr. Monkey says, to Master regarding SDSU impact on Colorado leaving. Interesting question, but the Pac's ability to backfill Colorado is the Pac's problem, not CU's. I doubt they have any promise to anybody either way. I don't think there's going to be a problem with that either way. Greg Swain, breaking news here today. SDSU saw the projected Pac-12 meeting numbers and decided that immediately they would take years to make enough in the Pac-12 to pay their Mountain West buyout. So they decided to go back to the Mountain West. That's funny. Oh, that's funny. I'll just wrap up with a few more here. Let's see. I tweeted it to you, Nathan. Thank you. I'll find that and I'll definitely get it out to the team. BR, I don't have time to do that. We're on a long time, almost 2.5 hours. I want to thank everybody for being here. This was a fantastic show. If you weren't here when Jim Williams was here, I recommend you go watch the beginning of the show and catch the first hour with Jim Williams. It was very enlightening, and it also, I think, gives you an idea of how the disaster of ESPN's layoffs and how they're going to affect and trickle down to the rest of sports media. I want to say, Immaculate and Larry, thank you for joining. I appreciate it as always, you guys being on my show. I value your opinions, and I just really appreciate you guys being here. Do you want to say anything, either of you?
Larry?
Yeah, I wanted to say, some of these questions I've seen come in were really great topics and questions, and I love discussing those things and doing it respectfully. And I think it's awesome if you can build a show with people like that coming on and having discussions and getting their voices heard. So that's about all I got.
Thank you, Larry. Immaculate, you want to say anything?
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. To me, I don't care what a show's subscriber number is when it comes to getting me to pay a lot of attention to it. The biggest one for me is Greg, and that's a small one. And you've kind of become number 2 for me. I mean, there's, places like the other one you're talking about that have much larger numbers, but that tends to not be places where you can just have a nice conversation. And that's generally what you do. And you allow us to really put our 2 cents in a lot. So I do appreciate that. So it's always a lot of fun coming on your show. Thank you.
Thank you, both of you. I really appreciate your time, and I know the community really appreciates you guys being involved. This is a community show. It's not a Nathan Bomber Brown show. It's not a holy rivals show. It's about the people, and we're trying to represent people that are disenfranchised all the Mountain West, Oregon State, Washington State, AAC schools coming from the BYU background. I'm very empathetic to those organizations, and if we can give you a voice and give you some power out in the world, we really appreciate you being here and participating. Please subscribe if you want to join the channel and have all your messages read on the show. There's 3 subscription models now. In fact, let me see if I can find. You see if I have my YouTube up. Give me 1 second. If everybody be patient with me, I can show you where that button is at, because it's a lot cheaper to do a subscription at $1 or at $3 or $5 than it is to do multiple super chats. So let me go to my show. Sorry, I should have had this queued up, but I did not. Okay, it's right here. So here's my page, and right in the middle, I've got widescreen on. So it's right here, and it's next to, it's just there. So when you see the join button, it'll give you the options. In fact, I can click on those, and it just pops up, and you pick the membership you want to use. The $2.99 gets you involvement in the show. The contributor and the founder, a little bit more. The founder, I'm gonna send you a logoed towel that you can put up in your office, hang on a wall or something, or for that matter, clean your car with. And both the contributor and the founder give access to a new social group that I created that is just going to be for background information. And let me show you what that looks like. It's actually this one right here, BYU Bombers Bar. And it's going to have information in it. Right now, it doesn't have anything because I just started it last night. But I'm going to be putting in background information, the community sharing information back and forth. So this will be a safe place where people can go have a discussion, and you don't have to worry about getting called out on regular Twitter or trying to fit it in on a show. Anyways, that's a lot for today. You guys have been spectacular. Thank you so much for being here. And I was going to do a show later tonight, but I don't know. This went a lot longer than I thought. I might do an emergency show later tonight, but we are going to be skipping tomorrow with the Holy Rivals show. We decided to not do that because of the Big 12 announcements with BYU and Provo. But we're going to have a Holy Rivals show first part of next week. So I anticipate seeing those subscription notifications going out. Thanks so much again. Have a great night. If I don't see you, have a great July 4th with your family. And if you have stuff you want to contribute to the show, send me a DM. They're all open. Send me a message in the comment section. Give me an idea of what a show is that you want to do around. I want to walk away from realignment once we can turn the page. Can't do it quite yet, but we're getting close. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Appreciate it. Peace out, and we'll see you later.